Well, there you all are. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Rick Farron. My wife Susan's next to me here today, and we are coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And how nice it is to be able to be here and to be able to talk to all of our friends. And we do it every Saturday night, and we've been doing it for 20 years. And folks, this is where ex Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk right here on the six screens telenetwork. Whoa, I'll tell you what a big week. What an exciting week. I know I say this a lot, but I have to really tell you, all of us apostates, we are getting points on the scoreboard. We really, really are. Friends, we are making a big difference. The Watchtower is aware of what we are doing. And we're going to talk about that. The Watchtower is losing the internet to the apostates. Can you imagine that? We're now in first place. We'll get into that in a while. But I just wanted to make a couple of comments before we get into the news tonight. I wanted to talk about the moderators. Now, we had Maverick from London. He would like to be a moderator. Maverick, if you're listening in, which I believe you are, we will be in contact with you this week. And by next week, you will be a moderator in our chat room on YouTube. And you'll be able to, delete people that might be uncivil. Let's go with that. People that are kind of
a little too feisty.
Yeah, a little too feisty. People who might even be drunken Bethelites. But anyways, we'll have you in there. And also Nicole, the same with you.
Yeah.
You're there, Nicole. I'll be in touch with you, and I'll show you how we're going to go about that. I'll give you the information you need. So beginning next week, we will do that. And I believe that will be into July. Yeah, we're trying to get things organized so that in July we're going to make some big changes there on the six screens. Now, the other thing I wanted to thank everyone. Really, I mean this sincerely. I get about 100 emails and text every week, and you folks are so excited about what is Rick going to put up on JW World News. Well, thank you for sending me all the information you do. And I look through it and I thumb through it and I pick stories that I think could really resonate with the listeners.
And we don't want people to stop, because without it, I mean, we really enjoy, even though it's a lot, we really enjoy all the contact that we have with you.
Yes, and don't feel bad if I don't use your news stories. So some of your news stories are really good.
Yes.
Sometimes they're a little, heavy to deal with. But what I try to do here, Susan and I, we put this together. We work together with this, and what we try to do is put the news stories up that can really be worthy of you. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, we want you to speak up on it. I don't want to bring a story on here so complicated that you'd be afraid to speak up on it. So we try to keep it, but I have to talk about some stories that are pretty complex once in a while, but I try to keep it to the point that stories that we can all comment on and really get what's going on behind the curtains. What do you think, Susan?
Well, you try to keep it current and fresh, which I really appreciate. We don't talk about the same thing week after week. Maybe the subject, like disfellowshipping, crosses over, but it usually is with people with different or horrific stories. So you really work hard at making the news fit with what's going on at the time, what's going on with the rest of the Watchtower.
Yeah, what the news is here, it's, I enjoy doing it. I find it's very comforting. It kind of really continues to reverberate through the mind, through the echoes of my mind, so to speak, and really lets me know the Watchtower is an evil organization. And, in doing the news, I also have to get on jw.org. Now, that's pretty sickening at times. And I have to listen to videos and read the Watchtower, but I have to know what's going on so we can give you the latest of what's happening behind the curtains. But before we even get into the news, I wanted to bring up now what we're doing here. Susan, my wife next to me, when we first met 13 years ago, Susan took on what we call a hotline. And we had people call in from pretty much all over the place. And they talked to Susan. These were individuals that were kind of inhibited or kind of feeling kind of shy. They didn't want to call up and be live on air on YouTube and Facebook and on a radio network. So they wanted to kind of go kind of incognito. So Susan had what we call a Six Queens hotline. And Susan did a great job with that. And some days we had upwards of 12 people that would call Susan. Now, these were people that were leaving the Watchtower. So Susan's going to be starting that up again. That's going to start up in on July 1st. And I'm going to put up on the screen, and as Susan's talking, and you'll be able to see the number on July 1st. If you're listening in and you're afraid to speak up on air and you like to talk to someone about the Trek and the Watchtower, Susan can really help you. So, Susan, go ahead and talk about it.
Just to let you know, I've done this before, and though I have no professional training, I was a witness for 37 years. So I've seen pretty much everything. My ex-husband was an elder. So we were really involved in the congregation. He was also the Watchtower conductor, and he was involved in the district and circuit assemblies. So things rub off on you when you get involved with it. I'm sure if your husband was an elder, you could concur with that. Do you want me to give the number?
Yes.
This number is for people who just want a little bit of personal attention. They're a little embarrassed. It might have something to do with dating or a personal problem that you don't want over the airwaves here. But the number is 978-945-1415. And I'll say it again because maybe you didn't have time to grab a pen. It's 978-945-1415.
Well, let me ask you, Susan. Now, what type of callers people be interested in that? Let me just get this clip off here for you. Now, what type of callers did you have call into you? Who were these people? What were they concerned about?
Well, we're talking 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So we weren't even married back then. But I would say the most number of calls came in about being treated poorly in the congregation. The elders, the differences between two different brothers or sisters. Also, believe it or not, there were a number of brothers or sisters that would call, and they were dating someone that was not a Jehovah's Witness, and they wanted to know why this person wouldn't move on in the relationship, or why they wouldn't get married, or what the situation was, or why they even wouldn't move in together. So we had to talk about things like that. And I didn't mind because I appreciated what they were going through and that they needed to talk to someone about it. And again, I don't have professional training, but I am a professional Jehovah's Witness. I was one. So, and then there's always Rick. I can always fall back on Rick to talk to him about if there's a problem and I can't handle it. But other than that, I'm prepared to take talks that has anything to do with the Watchtower, the Kingdom Hall, anything that involves someone that's a Jehovah's Witness, like someone's a Jehovah's Witness. They're coming to my door every week. Why is that? Something to that effect.
Well, there you go. Now, I remember that was very unusual. I didn't think, we kind of came up with the idea, and Susan was the one that was going to handle this. And I didn't really think there'd be a lot of people calling in, but there was a lot of people calling in to the Six Greens hotline. And let's face it, folks, there's a lot of people out there listening to this program right here tonight. And I mention this a lot, but it's true. There's a lot of people listening in tonight. They might be in a bedroom by themselves. They might be listening outside the house because of, witnesses inside the house. They're trying to find out what's going on in the Watchtower. Is this really the truth? Is it not the truth? I want to hear what others are saying. So, sometimes you feel very lonely. You don't know who to talk to. Well, give Susan a call. She'd love to hear from you. And that's starting July 1st. Right here. We'll continue to mention it. And let's go with that number. I'll put it up on the screen once again so you will see it. So let me put that up right now once again. And here it is. The number is 978-945-1415. I'll also have it put up on our Six Screens website so that call it. You know, when you're away from your witness friends, call in and talk to Susan about it, and she'll be able to help you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys should be really proud of yourself that you are doing that for young ones like us, or for people that were raised Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that's so amazing.
So who's this?
Sister Lisa.
Hi,
I talked to
Sister
you guys
Lisa.
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago about the napkin on the head with my grandmother.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I just have to tell you guys, I love this channel. I love the community. What you guys do is so healing for me as a person, and just love it. And I think it's amazing, Susan, that you are doing that for young ones that need a mentor or someone to talk to. And that is just beautiful, and much love to you for that.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for that. You know, just to know that this is going to be something that people are going to be interested in. I wasn't sure if anyone would be interested in this, but thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I've been out a couple weeks with some family obligations, and I was so happy to be here tonight and see a couple things. And of course, you know, I have a lot of stories and all that kind of thing. You guys are I just have to thank you so much. You do heal my heart, both of you. Going through what I've gone through as born in, and you know, disappointing everybody and being labeled and all that kind of thing. You know what? What do you do with that? There's nothing to do with that. It is what it is. So yeah, just wanted to thank you guys. You're amazing, and love you.
Well,
Thanks for what
thank
you
you.
do.
Well, thank you very
Right
much.
back at you, Lisa.
There you go, Lisa. Well, thank you. That made our night, Lisa. That's very nice. Thank you. Yeah. So what it is you know, there's a lot of people that are disconnecting from the Watchtower. They don't know who to talk to. I mean, even when I was getting out back in 2005, when Satan kicked me out of his organization, there wasn't a community like this. There wasn't even many communities. In fact, there were no communities. So you kind of had to go on your own. You kind of had to just kind of follow the flow, so to speak. But today, you can call people, talk to people, and it can be a great avenue to help you heal. Well, anyways, let's take a look over here, see what else is going on. Okay, Susan, we're going to get into the news, but I'm not going to beat the Michael Jackson movie to death here. I mean, we've been discussing it. Everyone loves the discussion. It was a wonderful movie. I'm not going to, go too much into it, but there's something that Susan came across on the internet that she wanted to share with us concerning the movie. So let's bring Susan on. Susan, tell us about the movie. What do you know about it?
This was about him going on his where he had his what do they call those, like wherever he went,
his tours, yeah.
Well, his tours, or wherever he was going, and it wasn't at home. When he wasn't at home, he had elders that were assigned to go with him on tour to make sure that he behaved himself. So I'm thinking, wow, how can they accuse him of all the evil things that they said he did when he had elders with him 24/7? He couldn't. They have to have the 2-witness rule. Well, there were 2 witnesses right there, and if he never did anything wrong. So I thought it was a little bit of overkill, but that's what they did. That's what Jermaine Jackson, he just wrote a tell-all book about his experiences with Michael. And you might enjoy it if, you're looking for something to read.
Yeah, well, that would be Jermaine Jackson. If you saw the movie, Jermaine Jackson, he played Michael Jackson. Now, Jermaine Jackson was Michael Jackson's nephew.
Oh, that's right.
So Jermaine's uncle was Michael. And boy, I'll tell you what, he did an excellent job in the movie. He could do the moonwalk, he could dance, he could sing. I mean, really, I give the guy, I hope when the movie comes up that it'll at least be nominated for an Academy
He
Award.
was something else.
Oh,
I'll tell you, if he
great.
doesn't have a career after this, I don't know what
Oh,
more
you're
he
right,
could do.
Susan. So Susan was saying that Jermaine, the nephew of Michael, wrote a book. And in the book, Jermaine talks about how his uncle Michael, when he went to these tours, you know, like the Victory Tour specifically, that was the one I believe they were speaking about, the Victory Tour, which was the last tour I believe Michael went on. Now, in that tour, what Jermaine was saying is there were elders from the Jehovah's Witness organization that were there to keep an eye on Michael in watching every move he made so he wouldn't sin. Now, can you imagine that? The pressure poor Michael Jackson was under, you know, performing in this one scene in the movie. I mean, you know, we think in pictures, we remember in pictures, we're moved to action in pictures. And the one scene in that movie that got me really embedded in my head was at the Los Angeles Stadium. There was over 60,000 people.
Oh, I know.
And poor Michael had showed all the people, Michael, they're all roaring, and Michael. You imagine that pressure. Now just, you say, well, I want to be a rock star. You do? Well, I'll tell you what, I hope you can handle the pressure, because a lot of these guys, they turn to some nasty habits. But you got 60,000 people, Michael, and, you know, showing them all out there. And you got the elders watching too. Do you need that? I mean, you can imagine the problems this could create in a person's mind. But anyways, that's
Hello?
yeah. Yes, go ahead, Italy.
You can finish what you're saying, Rick. I just wanted to.
Well, no, I want to hear. I want
say
to.
something.
I want to hear from you.
In reference to what you and Susan was talking.
I'd love to hear from Italy.
Thank you. Rick, Susan, everyone, since the governing body, I guess back in the day, they didn't really show too many pictures of them except for in the Proclaimer's book. They themselves are, I could say, narcissists. I think in most cases, they do not want a great deal of the rank and file witnesses to, if they have talents, to build upon the talents and, you know, become famous, if not world famous, just well known. Is because they want the, you know, they want the spotlight. They want the obeisance. They want the worship and everything else. Besides, they want, of course, everyone's money. That's why they keep crying for donations and everything. So I think in more cases, they were probably angry, probably on a personal note about Michael Jackson and maybe many other, you know, celebrities, because Michael Jackson was loved by the world. He was not only by, you know, by people, you know, I'm not going to say by the world, but people who were non-witnesses as well as witnesses. He was well respected by people who were some of the witnesses, along with, of course, non-witnesses. And that's why they call him the King of Pop. But, you know, I think that the leadership of the organization was probably kind of, I'd say personally, jealous or envious. And you know, of his fame and notoriety and how much he is, you know, and even down to this day, even though he is, may rest in peace also, he's, you know, gone and no longer with us, that, you know, they might have been probably angry. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. And, you know, thank you for what you brought out, Susan, too. Thank you.
Yeah, Zach. Go ahead, Zach. Yeah.
Exactly. I just wanted, hi, Susan, too.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say something about that. You mentioned that book And remember, I read portions, little pieces of some book a couple of weeks back. Well, I have that book. I'm reading it now. And the book is You Are Not Alone, Michael,
Okay.
Through a Brother's Eyes. It's by Jermaine Jackson, and Jermaine Jackson is Michael Jackson's brother. Jermaine Jackson's
That's right,
son, I
yeah.
think, is the one who plays Michael Jackson in the movie
Mhm.
Jafar Jackson.
That's right. You're right, Zachary.
Mm-hmm. And I only read the beginning of the book. I haven't gotten that far in it because I had to pick up another one, something else to read. And so when I get done the other book, I'll be reading You're Not Alone, Michael. Yeah. All right. But good stuff you're bringing out.
Oh, good. Thank you, Zach. Let's bring
Yeah.
Diamond Dave
Thank
on.
you.
Let's bring Diamond Dave on. Hello,
good.
Diamond Dave.
What's going on?
Well, anyways, go ahead, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Yeah.
So I've got news from the Mormon world that may actually impact Jehovah's Witnesses here in Mongolia.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because Jehovah's Witnesses are here. So the long story short is I was notified that a Mormon mission president, someone in charge of the missionaries, was required to leave the country. He lost his residency due to basically he was in a month-to-month apartment rental, and that terminated. So since he didn't have a place to stay, he had to leave the country. He lost his residency due to a lack of residence, right? Well, the Mongolian Immigration Agency, from what I've heard, rolled through every single Mormon meeting house checking missionary documents, right? Now, here's how it can affect Jehovah's Witnesses here is if they are on the same type of visa that the Mormon missionaries are on, right? Whether it's a volunteer or humanitarian or religious visa, right? Jehovah's Witnesses may be getting a visit from Mongolian Immigration Agency just because, they are similar organizations comprised of foreign nationals. So I can't say for sure that will happen, but it's just been my experience having living in other countries that when one foreign organization has like something like this happen, like a foreign NGO, typically immigration will just do a routine spot check to ensure all the documents are in order. And if they are not, then enforcement action could be taken.
Well, that is. I'll tell you what.
That's
That
amazing.
that is very good news. I'm glad to see countries beginning to at least put some of these strange, aberrant groups under the
Mhm.
microscope. Under the microscope, Diamond Dave. That's
Yeah,
good.
Mongolia. I mean, I live in a part of the world where they're under heavy scrutiny as it is. Because I mean, like, I live in Mongolia, right? I'm in between Russia and China. So those two countries are very, very strict about foreign NGOs. So is like India, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, things like that. From my anecdotal observation, when it comes to Mormonism, just in general, or just like these strange groups, as you called them, it's usually Western countries that don't really put them under the microscope too much.
Yeah, you're right with that. Yeah, the Western countries, I believe in the United States, the Mormons, as well as the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christian Scientists, all of these people, they seem to get away with a lot. But a lot of countries, they really come down heavy on them. Yep.
Yep.
Dave,
was your-
can I ask, do they just attack religious groups, or are there other groups that they're starting to question? Because
So
they don't
it's just foreign NGOs in general, and it's not related to religion. Even like foreign NGOs, they will get inspected by like tax auditors. The tax auditors will show up, right? Immigration will do routine spot checks. So it's not like they're attacking religion. It's just they are enforcing immigration law equally across all spheres: religion, business, schools, even, because Mongolia does have foreign schools that teach English, those are also under heavy scrutiny to make sure they're in compliance with the law.
Well, David, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I know I contacted you, and you and I are going to get together in the future. And, we're trying to expand our little network here. And
Yeah.
maybe in time we could have a little program where you talk about Mormonism. And
Yeah, we could do that. It won't be the date you designated, just because that's actually the day my sister-in-law and her fiance are coming from Singapore.
oh, I got
So
it. Yeah, don't you worry. So
yeah,
maybe sometime in late August or middle August or September when you're
yeah,
ready, because what we're going to try to do here on the 6 screens, we're starting to cross over. It's not just Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-witnesses that listen in. We're crossing over now to other people are listening in, and they find it fascinating with the mind control and the certain techniques that these cults use. So I'd like to have a program on the Mormons, on Christian Science. So I'm going to keep you in mind, okay, Dave?
yeah. So yeah, definitely sounds good. I could probably pull 1 or 2 people as well to join that are very informed. Have you guys heard about the LDS Church suing John Dehlin? That's been pretty big news.
You mentioned that, but we didn't really talk about it.
But we didn't.
Okay, I can. I'm actually. There's a man by the name of Colby Reddish. He left the LDS Church, and he's an attorney, I believe. He was a practicing attorney. I think now he's a professor of law, I believe. But he's in the legal sphere. I could reach out to him and see if he can join.
Oh, very good.
Yep.
Geez, I'd appreciate that, Dave, because what I'll do is I'll give you the StreamYard platform, and you can work that. And geez, you can do a great job. I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
you
no
want
worries.
to talk to Dave? Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask Diamond Dave a question regarding a relationship. I have a son that hasn't talked to me for 8 years, and he reached out to me about 2 days ago, and he's now a Mormon, and we have not talked for 8 years. And I want to ask a question. Before you get baptized as a Mormon, do you have to make a make amends, or because he reached out to me and apologized to me? Of course, I apologized to him for we had a bad relationship, but he mentioned he's a Mormon now. So is that a step that Mormons have to take before they get baptized?
So I'm going to be careful with how I answer this. Is that a universal requirement? No. Is this something that could have come up during the the Bible lessons that they give, and the bishop told them, hey, you should do this before we baptize you? Yes, that is a possibility. I've heard of that happening before, but I'm not familiar of anywhere that it's, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm not familiar where it's a universal requirement. If anything, it could be more of just he may have brought it up, and then the missionaries or the bishop would have likely pushed it if he did, because they'll ask about family ties and things like that.
Well, I really appreciate this, because this came out of nowhere, and we had a nice discussion for about a half hour, and I'm hoping to continue the dialogue, and we haven't talked for 8 years, and I was glad to be able to talk to him. The fact that he got baptized as a Mormon, that's another thing. But you know what? I'm not a master of his faith, and I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, no worries. And again, I just want to make it clear that this is just my personal opinion. So, but yeah, it is my opinion that he was encouraged to do so.
Did 360 have did someone want to comment on 360? Go ahead. Okay, maybe not. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Diamond Dave. Thank you for coming on, and we'll be in touch. Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thanks.
sounds good.
Yep. Bye now. All right. Well, that's Diamond Dave. He's a Mormon.
Boy, that was
And you're going to be
interesting.
hearing more from Diamond Dave. He does a really good job here at the Six Queens. We're so glad to have him involved with us. Well, anyways, let's get into the news. Let's talk.
360, you hear me?
360, go ahead. You're on with us.
Sorry, it's Sister Lisa again. I'm gonna bug you guys tonight. And can't just give you a funny story. Sorry, I'm not trying to railroad anybody, but just changing and happy things. I don't know how many people in the chat or once you've left the organization, if you've had someone come to your door after that, whether they recognize you or not. So I had someone knock on my door. I stated I'm not disfellowshipped or anything like that. But this lady came to my door, and I have dogs. I love animals. Anyway, she knocked on my door. My dog got out, and again, happy wagging tail, just like, ooh, who's here? She basically took her book bag and Watchtowers and threw them at me because she, I don't know, was scared. I don't know, but it was so horrific that I called the Kingdom Hall because she didn't know me, but I definitely knew her. And so I called the Kingdom Hall and I asked to talk to an elder, and I just said, you know what, I'm sorry, but that, if you're going to go door to door and you're going to be unprofessional like that and throw things at me, I think you need to talk to that person. That's not okay. Apparently that got around the whole state. And so the next time someone came to my house, they recognized the next time someone actually recognized me, and they're like, oh, you're the one that said that. I mean, come on, don't be a dick. That's the bottom line of the lesson. Don't be a dick.
You have every right to call the Kingdom Hall, regardless of who you were. If that was my dog and you threw something at the dog, I might have thrown something back at you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. It's my dog didn't do anything. And then the elder that came to my door a couple weeks, or no, it was months later, actually. And he was like, oh, you're the one that called the Kingdom Hall. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. That was not cool. And he's like, oh, we counseled her about that. She just doesn't like dogs. Okay, well, if you don't like dogs, what the hell are you doing in field service?
My question exactly. No, why would she?
What are you doing in field service if you don't like dogs? You're going to someone's property. It's no, not okay.
She can write letters. I mean, she can make phone calls. She doesn't have to go to the door. Right.
Yep. But anyway, so that went over the whole 3 counties I live in. After that happened.
They didn't try to burn your house down, did they?
No. They actually, I will say, on caveat, there was someone that had a big old problem, and 2 Kingdom Halls burned down in our area. Wow. It burnt to the ground, gone. And they caught the guy. But it was don't come to my door and my dog gets out and it's literally wagging its tail and you throw a watchtower at me? Are you kidding me? No. I'm sorry. Not today, Felicia.
I'm surprised that she hasn't done that before. I mean, I really.
Well,
someone must have called before.
That's how she acts.
Lisa, my goodness, you got a lot of stories there. My goodness, you are a woman that has tons of stories to tell. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. My goodness.
Hey, Lisa, let's write a book together.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, I would love that. We should. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. I
Well,
forgot.
Always good to hear from Lisa. Thank
Great
you.
talk.
Thank you, Lisa.
Love you guys.
Well, I love you too, buddy. So I just wanted to bring up here that Bucharest, well, that's in Romania. And last week, the Jehovah's Witnesses had the largest convention ever in the Romanian history. And I got some statistics, but they're not good. I mean, if the Watchtower is listening, they're going to hide their head in the sand. The Bucharest International Convention proved that it proved one thing: Jehovah's Witnesses in Europe are dying. Now, did you know that? Now, look at we just had Diamond Dave on, and Diamond Dave was saying that in the Western world here, and if you live in America, you're in the Western world, right? So in the Western world, many of these cults, they get a ticket to ride. They seem to be able to get away with murder, so to speak. But in other countries, it's not like that. Now, I'll tell you who's really turning on the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that, of course, is in Romania. Now, let me give you some. Well, just last week they had the convention. I'm just going to give you some numbers here. There's a lot of numbers. I can give you every day, but I'm just going with Sunday. Sunday was the day with the biggest attendance. They had 60,000 people. Now, it's an international convention. The Jehovah's Witnesses usually don't get that many people, but international, Romania, over there in Europe. So there we have a good sized convention, 60,000. Now, how many people do you think were baptized? Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Conventions, they attract a lot of people. Everyone wants to go to the convention. Even neighbors come in from around the stadium and people from the countryside. They're going to go listen to what Jehovah's Witnesses are saying. So anyways, the convention attracted thousands of delegates, mostly from European countries. But there's one telling figure that has to do with the baptisms. So we have 60,000 people. And how many people do you think were baptized? Well, I'm going to tell you, 476. 476. That's right, just 476 baptisms. And this is the largest convention ever held in the country of Romania.
Now, this was an international convention.
Come closer, Susan. Yep.
Now, this was an international convention. Do you remember? I don't remember. I didn't write it down, but what countries were invited to this convention?
Well, it'd be a number of European countries. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have that big in front of me. But we're talking about, a number of European countries came. And like I say, there was 60,000 people, 476 baptisms. That's not a good number. You might say, geez, Rick, that's a lot of people. No, it's not. 476. I'm going to give you some numbers here. I don't know if you guys go back like I do in the witness world, but if you go back to some of the conventions I went to, well, we'll get into that in a second, but I'm just going to give you a percentage here. So if you only have 476 baptized and you had 60,000 in attendance, that's 0.79 of those in attendance. Not even 1% was baptized. Now, if that's the best they can do at a record-breaking event, it's hard to see a sign of growth. This organization, that is the Watchtower organization, is clearly in decline. And it's satisfying to all of us to see that that's not a big number. Now, let me give you some ideas here just to bring you up to date. 476 baptisms, 60,000 in attendance. That's not growth. That's a farewell tour with a pool. That's what it is. I mean, seriously, there's no other way to look at it. So let's just take a look here. Let's go back. Let's go back to 1993. And for comparison, the largest international convention of Jehovah's Witnesses ever held in Kiev took place in 1993. Now, they had a peak attendance of 64,714. It's pretty close, right, to the Romanian International Convention. Now, just to give you an idea, baptized in 1993 at that European convention, 64,000 people, 7,402 people baptized. I mean, that's a big difference. Now that's what, so that means 11.44% of those in attendance were baptized. Those were the type numbers I can remember when I went to Veterans Stadium, when I went to Fenway Park, when I went to Yankee Stadium, when I went to all these big stadiums. They baptized thousands of people. Geez, I remember the 1969 Peace on Earth convention. I think, now don't hold me to it. I mean, Zachary's probably listening. He's our historian.
He's our numbers man.
Well, he's our numbers man. So don't hold me to it, Zach. But they were well over. I believe it was well over 2,000. I think it was 4,000. But don't hold me to it. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that 400 baptized, 60,000 people. That's not good. Really, when you stop and think about it. I'm just going to bring up another convention in the UK back in 1969. Now, I know we're rolling the clocks back, folks, but in London at Wembley Stadium, there were over 82,000 people in attendance. Now, this is back in 1969. 2,215 were baptized using 3 pools. We're talking thousands. Now, they just had the biggest convention in Romania, over 60,000 people, and we only get 400 something baptized. Something's wrong. Now, the governing body, I'm sure they're going to accumulate this data, and they're going to really be scratching their head. It's got to be troubling them. I mean, it would trouble you, wouldn't it? That is a big. That's not a lot of people.
Did they publish this?
It's not published yet. No, it's just recent. The
Just
convention
recent?
was just
Okay.
last week. Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
I'm sorry, Rick. Well, Rick, those numbers don't sound flattering. They are nice.
Well, we can't hear you too good, Zach. Come closer to the phone.
I'm sorry. Let me go and speak.
Well, that's better right there.
You hear me now, better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking when you first mentioned that, I quick tried to do my math thing, but I remember in the 80s when they used to have conventions, they would announce to the Bethel family, they would bring greetings and they would say how many people were in attendance. And then they would announce the number of people baptized. And it did seem to be around 1% was the comment, that it generally seemed to be around 1% one of those years. Now, when you say Kiev, and when you use 1969, those years were not typical years. Remember the Kiev baptism, those baptisms there, 7,000, the witnesses bragged that they were the largest Christian baptisms on record because they were more baptized than in the Bible and in the New Testament. Those were the years when they were opening up those the Iron Curtain countries, and so you did have an explosion in 1993 because the work was being opened up in those areas, and then in 1969, those years leading up to 1975, the numbers were elevated also because they felt that Armageddon was coming. So I think years in the 80s and in the 60s before 1966, you might get truer pictures of baptism ratio to attendance.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Zach. You're our statistician here. You help us a lot. We appreciate it. I know you're listening intently. So I'm trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And thank you for coming in. That's good. So
No, but your point is still taken, because that was less than 1%, you know? And sometimes when you look at the details, you do see small, you know, maybe, I had to get away from the cuckoo clock. Maybe that, that was an international convention. Maybe it did get more attention than usual. Maybe the number would have been expected to be higher. So it's not a bad point that you're making.
yeah, I did wanted to bring up too that, you know, some witnesses could challenge this. They could say, well, that Rick Farron, he's all wet in his way of thinking. They can say, well, that's an international convention. And, you know, a lot of people attending from other European countries, well, they might, you know, they were already baptized. So they're the ones that are attending. But I don't buy that line of baloney either, because the one in Kiev was also an international convention and they had 7,000 baptized. So, you know, you really can't use that as a defense for low baptisms. So the governing body, they just can't sit and watch this all happen. Well, what it's going to do, it's going to force them to change policies and directions or doctrines. And we're already seeing that. They're seeing this. I mean, the governing body isn't stupid. I mean, really, they're seeing what's going on. They're seeing people aren't getting baptized. So they're already hashing over in their minds, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to get more people baptized? How many more policies can we change? How many more doctrines do we have to change as well in order to get more people?
Birthdays.
So birthdays, so Christmas, all of that stuff. So what they're doing now is, I hope they're praying to Jehovah. I mean, I hope they are. They're supposed to be godly-minded men, but I rather doubt that they are. But I'm sure they're sitting watching this and they're not happy. They're really not. And we're going to hear more about conventions. And I just want to say, anybody that's going to the regional conventions this summer, send me the pictures. Send me the pictures to jwworldnews@gmail.com. jwworldnews@gmail.com. I want to show our audience the pictures, because we've been doing that for the last few summers here and showing you all the empty seats at the conventions around the world. And also let us know how many people are getting baptized, because I'm going to tell you now, Jehovah's Witnesses, when they have a convention, first of all, it's a big fundraiser. They bring a lot of money in. We know that, thousands and thousands of dollars. But even aside from that, it's also it's a bellwether. It's a sign of growth. I mean, if you see a lot of empty seats, it's not a good thing. I mean, the Watchtower is a business. You got to fill those seats. It's like a motion picture. You got to get the seats full. And then the other factor that comes into play, and what the governing body is watching super intensely, that would be the amount of baptisms. So if the baptisms are low, that is a prime indicator something's wrong. Something's not right. Why aren't people getting baptized like they used to? Well, there's a number of reasons. Now, I'm gonna stay in the European area. I'm going to talk a little bit. In fact, it's in Europe, northern Italy. Did you guys hear what's going on in northern Italy? I was shocked. I was shocked with what's going on. In one congregation, they suddenly removed 40 young Jehovah's Witnesses, both boys and girls, for very serious sins. Did you hear about that? That this really got my attention, because something's going on here. Witnesses, the Jehovah's Witness organization, is not getting the attention. They're not getting the respect from the younger people in the congregations. Now, the information came to me and I wanted to share it with you, but this one particular congregation where these 40 young Jehovah's Witness boys and girls were removed, well, there's only 25 to 30 that are attending in person now. So, you're taking a good number of the congregants out. Now, what I wanted to bring up here as well, what's going on? Well, there seems to be an emotional cooling off among most of the young brothers. Yeah. Why wouldn't there be? They are all very distant and detached, and the situation is becoming serious, and it's really creating some monumental issues for the Watchtower.
I also believe in society there's an emotional cooling off also, and that's going to rub off on the Kingdom Hall. You cannot keep the world out of. You can try to keep the Kingdom Hall out of the world, but you can't keep the world out of the Kingdom Hall. You just can't do it. And so these ones have needed attention for a while. This just didn't pop up.
Well, you're right, Susan. Now, here's what I want to bring this up as well. Now, I'm thinking, I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm trying to put two and two together. I'm thinking, why is it that all of a sudden we have 40 young people removed, just fellowship, same thing now. So why is this happening? Now, what I've been told is that many of the young girls in this Northern Italy congregation, they wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. And they see everything as a matter of conscience. Now, where are they getting that idea?
I'll tell you why. Because
Come close, so they have to speak.
I'm so sorry. I'm so used to not having to do this. In Northern Italy, they have towns that deal with fashion. A lot of fashion and trends come out of Northern Italy, and that's going to spill over into the area also, with tattoos and piercings and unusual dress, because that's what people do there. Like in New York, sometimes people dress a little funkier than they would, let's say, in Des Moines, Iowa. So that's kind of spilling over.
Well, that's true, Susan. So you got these young girls. Doesn't mention the boys here. Maybe a number of boys removed too, but the girls are saying that we want to do whatever we want
as a matter of conscience.
And we see everything as a matter of conscience. Now, where do you think they got that idea? Friends, this is what the Watchtower has been pushing for the last 2 years that I can really remember, really pushing it hard. Everything now is a conscience matter. So the young kids are saying, okay, I can get a tattoo, as Susan was just saying. I can get piercings. I can wear a mini skirt. I can do what I want. It's a matter, it doesn't bother my conscience.
Or just something like, well, I don't have to wear bras anymore. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Now that might not bother them, but it might bother a lot of other people.
Yeah. So what you got here, look at, I'm thinking, sometimes when you make a radical change, you can get backfiring. In other words, you might think you settled one issue, but you opened up Pandora's box. I think this is what the Watchtower has done. You got these young people now saying, well, it's a matter of conscience. I can do whatever I want. Now, it's apparent. It's apparent. This is not being made up. I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses. It is apparent that there's a big decline in Northern Italy, and it's happening really fast there. Now, it's not happening that fast here, but I mean, they're having problems here as well. And now, eventually, a lot of these young people, they're figuring out what's making them sick. Can you actually get sick by being a person in the Watchtower? Can you get sick as a young person being one of Jehovah's Witnesses? I mean, you be the judge of that. I'd be sick. I mean, listen, you're a young person. You want to be able to date. You want to be able to go out and play baseball with the guys. You want to be able to go and have a cold beer with your friends. You can't do that. You can't do anything. So no wonder why these people are leaving. So the decline in Northern Italy is getting to be really, really noticeable. Now, young people, they don't want anything to do with this religion anymore. And guess what? The elders are terrified. Really, think about it. This is your future, Watchtower. It's not the older people like myself. It's the young people. Now I'm seeing that there are so many congregations that are reporting lots of unbaptized publishers. Oh yeah, unbaptized. They're not getting baptized. A lot of these people, in their teens, they're saying, "Mom, I don't want to get baptized." Look, I was kind of coerced into it as a teenager, but these young ones, they have a little more. Let me put it this way to you: the newer generation, they have a little more. I guess you could use the word power than
Clout.
a clout than we had. We really were. We had to really follow our mother and father's direction. That's what you did in the old days. Or you were taken out to the woodshed. But these guys are getting away with murder. They're saying, "No, mom and dad."
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, this is Donald here. One of the reasons why I think they're not getting baptized is if you think about it, in the witnesses, what does baptized symbolize? It symbolizes that you are a part of that organization because their baptism has nothing to do with Jesus or Christ. They actually state that this makes you a Jehovah's Witness. And so those young people, they don't want to be Jehovah's Witnesses because they know that once they're baptized, they're subject to all those rules, and they don't want that.
Well, you wouldn't want it, Donald, and I wouldn't either. Thank you. Oh, you got it.
Well, a lot of kids did get baptized for their parents. I mean, that's a given.
Well,
right there.
my next comments kind of deal with that. Many younger ones, let's say under, look, if you're a little kid, you're 10, 12 years old, you're going to follow mom and dad. You're not going to give them trouble. You still need them a lot. But you get to be a kid 16, 17, 18, 19. You kind of had it. So a lot of these people, young ones, they've been following their parents to the Kingdom Hall, weekly basis. They're making no comments. They're just wasting time. They're on their devices during the meeting. They're going back and forth to the bathroom, 2-3 times during the meeting. They're texting. They're scrolling during the whole Watchtower study. They're just going to, in a perfunctory way, just to kind of appease their parents. And let's put it this way. Yes, Maverick.
No, finish your point, Rick. I was going to add to it just a second. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say that children, I say children, but let's go with teens. Say teens, 15 to 20 years old. They don't really care about this religion. There's nothing in it for them, Maverick. What do you think?
Yeah, I just picked up on what you said, and I agree with you because I recently have been reconnected with one of my good friends. He was an elder for about 7-8 years, and he is now a PMO, an absolute bona fide PMO. So we meet up regularly and we talk. And I said to him, "What's the atmosphere like with his congregation?" And with the younger ones, because it's interesting that you reminded me of one or two of our conversations. And he said they are so bored. It's so dumbed down now, so that they are so bored that what you're saying doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, this and the other thing is as well, they're all on the social media thing has taken. It was already matured now, so even Facebook feels like it's ancient now. Facebook, what's that? It's been around for a long time, but they've got so many ways to communicate now that they didn't have before. And then I think there is a subculture. The way he was talking and the way the things I've noticed, even with youngsters I bump into, because there's an eldest son who's a UPS driver, and now and again I bump into him because he's local to my area. And I said, "How's it going?" He goes, Yeah. They're also more cool and more, they're more confident in their own sort of like, well, we're kind of cool now. We can do it's more relaxed. We can do what we want. And so I think it feeds into what you just said about Italy and places like that. It's everywhere, especially in the big cities around the world. And I think that plays massively into the fact that there's this kind of, I think there's a subculture going on, that they've got their own kind of independent thing going on within the JW. I call it JW world. I call it within JW land.
They kind of communicate with each other and have their own kind of subculture because they have to. They know they still can't kind of fully disengage with the organization and their environment, but they need that kind of let go. So back in when I was in my 20s, you'd find the trendies and you'd go to that party or that social gathering once in a while, and everyone would just be completely outrageously kind of letting their hair down because it was a few opportunities. But now I think there's more to it now. I think they're more sophisticated in the way that they communicate with each other, and it's easier to connect and share their attitudes, like share the current feeling. And I think probably I'll end on this. I think there's probably more confidence now for them to speak their mind secretly, knowing that there's a teenage or 20-something loyalty there that they've got amongst themselves, and they keep that pact. So I don't think Watchtower's going to have it easy to convince these youngsters and early 20s and so on to kind of right, this is you're baptized now, you've got to be baptized soon. I don't think they're buying it anymore. So I think you're very much picking up on something that I kind of felt for a while, because I spoke to a few people in their late teens and 20s that are still part of their congregations locally, and this elder kind of reinforced my opinion as well, that they're bored out of their minds. They're switched off of the meeting on their phones, he said. They're just talking to each other on the phone in the meeting. So I'm not surprised at all. What you're saying resonates quite accurately to what I think we're all picking up from the outside, So I just wanted to say that, that basically that's what I wanted to say,
Well, I mean, here's another thing that's going on. They're still living under mom and dad's roof. So, they're still kind of dependent on their parents. But now, they're going to follow their parents up to the time they can get independence. Now, someone 14, 15, they're not going to go out and get an apartment or be able to function in life as an adult. But, you get to be 17, 18, you're getting pretty smart for your britches. And you can say to mom and dad that, I'm going to leave. And when they leave, that's it. And that's done. The Watchtower is going to be the last thing they're going to follow. And, this is scaring the elders an awful lot. Think about it. It's a ticking time bomb. It's going to cause a tsunami of people leaving. We have a lot of young ones. Now, obviously, there's a lot of baby boomers, too. Many my age, and they're still in the Watchtower. But these guys,
we're kicking the bucket.
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time left, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but it's a fact of life. And when our group begins to peter out, so to speak, who's going to replace them?
Well, that's the issue the Watchtower is faced with, Susan.
That's why they're catering to the young people. They're scared to death that they're all going to leave, which they are anyway. Regardless if they let them celebrate birthdays or not, they're leaving.
Well, what the Watchtower tried to do, I mean, McDonald's did it. We know that Watchtower is a business. McDonald's, in order to get young kids attached, they came out with the Happy Meal. Right? They came out with the Happy Meal. Now, going back about 10, 12 years ago, Watchtower, they probably copying the model of McDonald's. They said, we gotta get these young kids attached. So they came out with these crazy videos, Caleb and Sophia, and they started, promulgating those through their Watchtower streaming services and what have you. So they've been trying to.
But have Caleb and Sophia grown up? Are they teenagers now?
Well,
or are they still kids? Because if they're still kids, the teenagers have left them behind.
And Susan, I'll tell you another thing. When you did the hotline, you were talking about, no love. A lot of people leaving the Watchtower because there's no love. Yeah. And, these young kids feel it too. Don't think these kids are dumb. They're not. They can read through this. They're going to the meetings, and the elders and the circuit overseers are trying to get them to pioneer, trying to get them to go to Bethel, trying to get them to sacrifice their life to the Watchtower. Oh, no. They're not. These kids aren't going to buy that. These witnesses are saying there's no real love. even those circuit overseers. Well, we love you. No, they don't. There's no love in the hearts of those saying it. The hearts are filled, the young hearts are filled with fear and rules about obedience. That's what the young hearts are feeling. It's do this, do that. There's
Rick,
no
can I say-
no room. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I bumped into a few witnesses that I went to, that I was in the circuit with, and we were inquiring. Well, I inquired about their children. They told me they're not forcing their children to get baptized. They're not going to put their children to what their parents put them through. So if they want to go get baptized, they can, but they're not going to force their children to get baptized. And I just wanted to piggyback off what you said earlier before you introduced Anne Marie's show. You were mentioning the stadiums around, the United States, or how big they were. And we here in California, in the Los Angeles area, we had Dodger Stadium, and we used to open up the bleachers for the overflow. Where if a player hit a home run in that area, that was the overflow. And I noticed when I got baptized, it was 1874. So when we were back in our seats and the brother was giving his talk, they were still baptizing people right there on home plate. But a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, really, I was at a circuit assembly, and they asked the baptismal candidate to stand up. Not one person stood up, and I was in shock. I said, "No one's getting baptized." So at circuit assemblies, and you could testify to this too, it was 20 to 30, maybe more at a circuit assembly, and in the thousands at a convention. Now there's hardly any. I could testify to that. There's nobody getting baptized. I don't know, maybe some random guy off the street or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But there's hardly no one coming in getting baptized.
Wow. Well,
Hey, Rick,
yes,
this is John Terrio calling. Can I come on?
of course.
I wanted to comment on what you're talking about the Jehovah's Witness kids, leaving or not wanting to be a Jehovah's Witness. And, think about it, man. When we were kids, as a Jehovah's Witness, we didn't have a cell phone. We didn't have Facebook. We couldn't go to our cell phone and pull up information. So these modern kids, these modern Jehovah's Witness kids, they all have a cell phone. And so I would suspect that matter of fact, I believe that that's the cell phone and Facebook and all the information that they can look up, the texting with friends, maybe friends that their mom and dad would not let them associate with. Well, they're associating with them by just texting. They may not be physically in the same environment and hanging around with them, but they texting, they're communicating with the outside world. So I think that the cell phone that these kids have, these Jehovah's Witness kids, I think that's playing a major part in them realizing that, there's more out there in the world that they have a desire for, and they can see it because of the cell phone and just from talking to people, talking to other kids their age. But another thing I wanted to say was that I just wanted to tell you that how much I appreciate all the work that you do, you and Susan does to do the sixth screen. And I'm enjoying your wife being right there with you, sitting next to you. That's really good. I'm really enjoying that. And I think that's a really good idea about exploring other religions. What you were saying earlier with one of your guests
Diamond Dave.
about Diamond Dave interviewing him about the Mormons. I think that's an excellent idea, because then we can all compare Jehovah's Witnesses to how other religions are, and it's good to compare, because I do that a lot on my own personal studying. But anyway, I just wanted to say that about the cell phone and the kids, and how much I do appreciate all the work that y'all do to put on the stick screen, because man, look, I look forward to tuning in on the stick screen every Saturday. But anyway, thank you for giving me the time.
Well, we really appreciate that. We really, really do. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick,
Yes.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
I hope you could. Can you hear me right?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Is it clear? Okay. I want to ask you, just for clarification, what are you saying happened to these young people in northern Italy?
Well, what happened, it didn't really say what they did,
You can
but,
guess.
but what they were removed for, and it did come up that the girls, not the boys, but the girls, just were saying we can do whatever we want to do. Now, we understand, even according to the Shepherd's of Flock book, that people today can be disfellowshipped for brazen conduct. Now,
So that was my question. With they're disfellowshipped. They disfellowshipped that many people at one time.
right.
Because remove still sounds softer, but they disfellowshipped the whole group of people.
Must have been pretty
So I
bad,
think-
Zach. Well, it wasn't
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Maybe the girls
Yeah,
are
well-
maybe the girls are promoting something.
Uh, it probably is something that is there is something very specific that for which a person can be disfellowshipped in the witness, in the witness rules.
Do you know what that is that they did?
But at least this kind of makes room for other people to lead the organization in that area, and they still have other people that they know.
Right now,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
People-
didn't say what they did, but what one could conclude is 40 people being removed. There's another time I have heard of that many being removed
Mhm.
in one congregation in Ohio. I have heard that.
Uh-huh.
We had a woman come on and talk about that years ago on the 6 screens, and they were removed for actually participating in pornographic movies. Now, so
Mhm.
I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm not gonna say for sure, but
Does he know Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Mm.
I remember a sister one day pulled me aside. She just wanted, she was chit-chatting. And I must have given the right kind of reactions with, big eyes and my mouth wide open, like, really? That kind of stuff. And she pulled me aside. She was just saying, and Zachary, brother Zachary, this happened and that happened. And she told me, I want to whisper this because I don't want it to be heard. But she told me that there was a Kingdom Hall, and this is basically right near the Kingdom Hall that we had. And she said that that most of the congregation got disfellowshipped, and when it was done, there were 12 sisters and their families left. And then she told me the name of the congregation, and I realized that congregations being named by territory, there was a big gap where that congregation once was in the name. She said that the reason why they got disfellowshipped is people were, it was like wife swapping, and the Kingdom Hall, this is, I guess, olden days, the Kingdom Hall was in a house, a large house, like a mansion, but there was a neighbor who could see, and she saw this stuff going on, and she reported it. And there was a circuit overseer that I'd heard of who was called the Hatchet Man. And when that sister explained all that to me, with me going, really? Wow, oh my. Then I understood who the Hatchet Man was and why he had that title. but it has happened at other times too.
Oh yeah, no,
Where
well,
large groups in one area were disfellowshipped.
no, that's, well, I'll tell you what, there was a
Can I say something, Rick?
sure, go ahead.
Yeah, it was out here in the Inland Empire, which is close to Los Angeles. It was a congregation. The whole congregation was disfellowship for apostasy. The circuit overseer had a visit, and he asked the brothers, "Why did you take the of off the kingdom hall?" And they said, "Because we're of Jehovah, not of the organization." So they sent in troubleshooters, and he disfellowshipped the entire congregation. And that was back in the 80s. I never heard some young people like you're describing getting disfellowship, but I did hear an entire congregation, and they had to call in a couple of brothers from. At that time, now they say the branch. I don't know what that is, but anyway, they say they set the society at that time. And they came out here, and the entire congregation was disfellowship. Children all the way to adults, all gone in one swoop.
Well, that's fascinating. You bring that up. Now, I have only heard once of an entire congregation being disfellowship. It's not too far from where I live, right here in Massachusetts. So it's not, I mean, it's not uncommon. It's not rare, but it does happen. Well, the congregation right here was in Groton, Massachusetts, in the Pepperell area, if people are familiar with that. And the whole congregation just disappeared overnight. And people were going, what went on? What happened? And what happened is the whole congregation was involved in occultism. So they came in, and like you say, they have a hatchet man. Usually they bring a witness, a pretty strong-minded witness elder in, and he disfellowshipped the whole congregation, elders and everyone. It was unreal. People were wondering what went on. Yeah.
I told you about the congregation that didn't have any lights, but they were still sitting in the seats and they had no sermon. So maybe that's what happened to them. What was the reason for what reason did they give?
Well, the congregation of Massachusetts being dissolved. It was occultism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Rick, I think there was that congregation that was dissolved for wife swapping. I think that might have been in Ohio, where everybody, they go over to some brother's house after a meeting or whatever, and they would all engage in this wife swapping. And I think Mike and Kim would know about it and the details. And so they dissolved the whole congregation. It got to be too widely known. So that's something that the society, even though realistically they could care less, especially if these guys were all company men, they can't let that get out. So, but yeah, Mike and Kim would know about it. I think it's definitely on one of their videos. So,
apparently,
it was Ohio.
Apparently, it happens more than we know, because I do know this was not Ohio.
Yeah. So the thing is, it all goes back to, people are all company men and doing the job. Society doesn't care what they do. It's just that if they get caught and it becomes public knowledge, then they have to, because it's too much of a scandal. But over the years, I've seen elders, they've committed adultery, fornication, and they get maybe disfellowship 6 months later. They're reinstated 6 months after that. So a year later, then the next thing, they're reappointed again. Because they're company men, they got caught, it was public knowledge, and so the society had to take care of it. Otherwise, the ones that don't get caught, they can, and even what was it, the Watchtower that stated, if a brother has committed immorality and it has happened a few years ago and he's still faithfully serving, it's clearly evident, they like to use that term, that Jehovah's Holy Spirit is still upon him and nothing should be done. It might have even been in the Shepherding the Flock book.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to just say another thing on this idea of large groups of people. I don't know I don't remember the outcome of this, but this is in the Mozambique yearbook that came out sometime in the 90s or the early 2000s. The Malawi group, they were in those camps after they were being persecuted in Malawi. They were in camps, and sometime after 1975, there was supposedly some large apostasy in the Malawi camp, because they were saying that the age of the elders has ended, and now it is the age of the anointed. So they were not following the elders so much. I don't know what the outcome of that was, but that's another example of a large group revolting. A revolution.
What is that supposed to mean, Zach? I mean, what are they changing? It's the age of the anointed. There's no more anointed left, or not really.
These were the people. Well, remember, this was following the year 1975, sometime after 1975.
Oh, okay.
And this was the Malawi brothers and sisters. Remember, they went through that persecution, and they ended up in camps, like refugee camps.
Yeah.
In fact, Brother Schroeder had done a zone visit to Africa, and he visited the Malawi camps. This was in the 80s. And he said that he met an 18-year-old girl who had been born in the camps and never been outside of the camps yet. She was 18 years old. So they had some kind of camps, supposedly, that the Malawian brothers and sisters had to be in, had to live in for a long time. But sometime after the year 1975, they started saying this is no longer the age of the elders, it is now the age of the anointed. So it sounded to me when I was reading the yearbook, and it was pointed out to me, you need to make sure you read that in the yearbook. But it sounds to me like they were no longer allowing the elders to have authority over them. I'm not saying it was the whole camp, but I am saying there were enough people who felt this way for them to write about it in the yearbook.
Well, we see all kinds of issues that have taken place in the past. There's been mass disfellowshippings. Of course, they're not referring to it now, Zach. They're calling it removed. But I'm sure it was more than just brazen conduct there in northern Italy. But this is also happening in America. And the young ones, we might not hear 40 getting disfellowshipped at once. But if you get on the Reddit post, the forum online for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, you'll find so many people writing in there of young ones that are being disassociated and disfellowshipped. All right, well, okay, we'll move on. We'll move on off unless someone has something else to say. We're going to move on to another story here.
Sorry, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Maverick. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you a question. You mentioned I didn't catch it properly when you mentioned that there were a group of brothers and sisters were disfellowship for occultism. Did you say?
Yes.
Right. So I just thought when you said that, I thought, did I hear that correctly? Because I mean, like that's talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, that the Watchtower would have to say, hang on a minute, you guys join us in the governing body for occultism. If you're doing that, great. Come and join us. We'll have a bigger governing body.
Well,
I mean, the organization,
what the society
it's crazy.
The society tacks names on everything. Those names that they tack on there are the language that they trained the people, the other witnesses. So they use that. They've got names for everything. And once they say it's occultism or apostasy, you're already trained, mind controlled. You register that in your brain, and that's it. It's over. And so they were calling the society out on the things they're doing wrong. And as far as Africa, I don't know if anybody remembers, but Mexico wanted people to join, and they wanted their military, and there was a fee or whatever. I can't remember the exact details, but they told the Mexican brothers that they could join, and it was okay. While at the same time, the comparison was the brothers and sisters in Malawi couldn't buy a voting card or pay for a voting card, or whatever the details were, and they went through extreme persecution for a long time. And Mexico was just, oh yeah, it's up to your conscience. So that caused a lot of issues, and people were probably starting to wake up and go, well, it's the same issue. People here are dying because of that, and people in Mexico, it's your conscience, do what you want to do, no problem.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold
Let
on,
me
Jack.
just say
Yeah,
this.
let me get back to the We're going to get back to Maverick was talking about the occultism.
Oh, sorry.
I want to make a comment on that. I'm going to fill you in on that. I think there's more to the story that everybody should know. I usually don't bring this up. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to talk about it tonight. It's usually a subject that's usually taboo here in the Six Screens because people scoff
I'm
at it.
loving this.
People, it's a taboo subject, but I'm going to bring it up. We discuss everything on the Six Screens. Everyone has a voice. But let me tell you about this congregation that was this fellowship for occultism.
Maverick and I want to know if the Watchtower and that congregation could have a magic fight.
Well, I'll tell you what happened here. Now you guys know, those who've been listening in for years, we give everyone a voice. There have been people come on here before, and people have talked about a secret order of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, you can do with it what you want, but I totally believe that there is an order of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, not all witnesses, but there are some that are involved in some pretty strange doings. Do I have information on this? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We've had a number of people, like I say, call up and talk about it. But right here in Massachusetts, I hate to say it, that's where I live, but there's an element of occultism in this state. If there's any state that has, occultic rituals or gets involved in the occult more than others, I'm gonna label Massachusetts as perhaps the top one. Now, how can I say that? Well, what about Salem, Massachusetts? You can't believe it. I was through there the other day. There were bus tours taking people to the witch's house. And at Halloween, hundreds of thousands of people come here to Salem, Massachusetts, where they had the Salem witch trials back in the 17th century. You guys remember that, right? But okay, that's enough of that. Now I'm going to tell you what. There's an area here in Massachusetts. Now, don't let me spook you out here. If you live there, don't worry too much about it. But if you live in the Pepperell, Dunstable area, the Groton area to some degree, but mostly Dunstable and Pepperell, this is a very occultic area in the state of Massachusetts. Now the
cults have got started here.
now a lot of cults got started here, but we're talking here the occult. We're talking here about strange things. Now, in this area where the congregation was dissolved, but occultism is where I'm talking about. Now, there's been people who have come on this program and said that when they were little kids and even teenage kids, they were taken to these houses and they were supposedly Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing that would be involved in occult practices, like what witches and things do, dance around a circle, light certain candles and what have you. Whatever they do in the occult, I'm not sure. But anyways, that's what they would do. And they would really, speak with Satan, the devil himself. Now, if you're not a believer, you're going to go, oh, come on, Rick, I don't believe this. I get that. If you don't believe in God, you can't believe in the devil. But for those that are following me here, it's definitely an area where occultism comes into play. Now, I had a woman, a sister, a Jehovah's Witness woman, and I was still a Jehovah's Witness at the time. And she wanted to come up and visit me and my former wife. So her and her mother came up from Florida, and she was from Pepperell, Massachusetts, the occult area. So anyway, she came up and she says, Rick, she stayed with us for a week. And she says, Rick, could you take me to where that house was, where the witnesses met? And they did these very occult practices. I says, okay. So it's about 20 miles from where I live. So I got in the car and we drove out there. And we drove by this house up on the hill. She says, that's where we met. She says, it was a yellow house up on the hill, it was still yellow. She said, that's where we used to meet and all kinds of vile, evil things took place. Now, I didn't at the time. This would have been around 1996, 1997. I didn't at the time really believe much the woman was saying. But then all of a sudden, as we continued to do the 6 screens of the Watchtower calls, a number of people called in and told me the same thing. There's a secret order that exists. Now, I kind of debated it at first, but I'm really beginning to see that this stuff goes on because some of the things I hear, like even Zachary was just talking about, who in their right mind is going to start swapping their wife? I mean, that's going to be, I mean, Satan's going to be involved in that. I can't possibly imagine, especially Jehovah's Witnesses. They're supposed to be pristine, pure Christians, the only one with any godliness at all, and yet they're swapping their wives. I mean, the devil's going to be involved in that. Take it or leave it. So there's things I hear. What about all this child sexual abuse, the perversion? I mean, this is all satanic. It's so bad. It's satanic. So, I believe.
And if you don't think it's satanic, talk to Barbara.
Yeah. Barbara who?
What?
Barbara who? If you don't, Barbara who?
Anderson.
You didn't say Anderson, did you?
No.
Yes, you
I'm
said-
sorry. I thought
yeah.
they knew.
No.
Wait a minute. Barbara Anderson has all the information on that.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, you can believe what you want, but I mean, doing this program, I hear a lot of stuff. So, I mean,
Someday I'll tell you a story.
yeah,
If
go
we
ahead.
have another convention. Someday I'll tell you a story, and the year would be 1960, and the other event, the year would be about 1967. So these topics are not new in the world of the Watchtower.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Who's this?
This is Dean.
I didn't,
Hi,
I
Miss
didn't,
Lovely.
Tell that was Dean
I
right
did-
away.
I didn't recognize your voice. You sound like, are you taking voice lessons?
Oh, no. I'm just here for Bible study every Saturday night.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, but I wanted to just say hi and just go back to what you were saying earlier. You're exactly right. My mom raised me in this horrible cold. I had a miserable childhood. But, just like you said, though, Rick, children are a lot smarter than we think. I was awakened because at least I have God-given insight. It's just Hippocratic bullshit and just the propaganda of it all. And while my childhood wasn't bad, when I look back in the things you mentioned, sports and all of that, it really sucks. I wasn't allowed to have fun. I had to live some fun through my best friend. He wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, but thank God my mom let me play with him, So I'd go to all his t-ball games, the football games. I really wanted to be a Cub Scout. Of course, we couldn't do that, right? We wear a uniform with a flag on it. And he was in the Cub Scouts, the Weeblos, I think they used to call them. And he built his little Pine Derby car and all that. I mean, I got to see it through his eyes. But shit, it really sucked I wasn't able to participate. And yeah, kids, they're very perceptive. Don't ever count a kid out as being dumb. They may not be saying a whole lot, or their brain is scrambling overtime. And yeah, people find out. And then to touch on what we spoke about earlier, I don't know who the gentleman's name was, but he's exactly right. Like, me being an embalmer, old-time mortician, I hear different kinds of services all the time, every day. So I got to see it, kind of like from the outside in versus being a JW. There's a song by Genesis called The Carpet Crawlers. I wanted to mention that. And the lyric says, you got to get in to get out. it's kind of like the JW, man. The people from the outside don't know it, but they're on the outside of the carpet. All the JWs, you know, the rank and file, they're too busy in the carpet trying to go around the maze of every dog on fiber because the Watchtower is just choking them down. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention that. It's good to look at all types of religions, but you know, from my experience, by many, many years, it's all leading back to Christ, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, Rick, and say hi to you and Susan. Great to see you guys again this Saturday.
Well, thank you, Dean. You got
Love you guys.
We love you too, Dean.
You got me laughing, Dean, when you talked about wanting to be a Cub Scout. Oh, that's it's a little guy, a little boy. He'd like to, be a little Cub Scout. But you say you got to put a little flag patch on you, and they're having a heart attack about that. I mean, what's the matter with that? Well, what's the matter with being a little Cub Scout? That's just going to,
No, but here's the ludicrousy, right? Then they say, well, all those the den masters or whatever, they're going to rape you. And lo and behold, I mean, it doesn't make it, like I said, they're the biggest hypocrites around.
Jeez. Oh, you're right, Dean. You got me laughing. It's you have a
You're so right.
You're so right with all of the stuff that Susan says. It's just, but all of these things, it becomes a laughable matter. It's so. Why wouldn't you let a kid?
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. It's like, Mommy, can I have a cookie? I mean, please.
Yeah.
Oh, the Girl Scouts. You can't sell Girl Scout cookies.
You can't buy Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention, right? So then my mom married my stepfather. He's the Grand Poobah there that I told you guys about in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I was 16, we were eating pizza. I remember it like yesterday. And he looked at me with a straight face and says, you're not going to go to the meetings with us. You're going to have to get out of the house. So this SOB wanted to kick me out of his house because I didn't want to go to every stinking meeting.
Oh, that's what they do.
I was a team.
How old were
I was a team.
How old were you, Gene?
Team best thing. I didn't even know it. I was 16 when he tried to kick me out.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's bad, Dean. That's would you do that to a young kid? Jeez, really. But that's what they do, Terrible.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Well,
hey, Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, who's this?
Hey, this is Seth and Felicia Coulter from Missouri.
Hi.
Hey, we just wanted to jump on. I saw you and Susan and just wanted to say hello, but I just want to let you know we're just celebrating our son's 3rd birthday. He turned 3 a week ago, but we had the party today because of sickness. But no JW shining around, and we actually got to talk to people about how we didn't get to do this growing up, but how freeing it is, and so much support and laughter and love. So it's so good to be in an environment like that. We just wanted to share that with you, and we're just so happy. We're tired but happy.
Oh, very good. Now,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's Seth out there, Missouri. Now, Seth, you were going to do some protesting, were you?
Yeah. Coming up back in August, we're going to get back up the old protest here at the conventions. We have 4 weeks in a row, I believe. No, either three or 4 weeks in a row for a convention, and then shortly after they're at their assembly. So we're going to go back out there and do some more protesting.
Wow.
Well, that's wonderful. Now look at what we'll do. Maybe when you do that, and it's, well, I don't know if it'd be at nighttime for a program, but if it's early enough in the afternoon, well, you guys are in Central Time, right?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah, so maybe like if you're out there we come out at 6, so if you're out there at 5, maybe when it might still be too late, but I'd love to, if you are protesting live, I'd love to bring you in. We'll see what happens. But stay in touch with us.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, let us.
Stay in contact.
Yeah, Well, thank you.
It's good to see you and Susan, and it's not every Saturday night. We don't get to sit down all the time, but we try to catch the program as much as we can.
Well, thank you,
Well,
guys.
that's
We're proud of
wonderful.
you and your wife and your little boy too. Happy birthday to
Yes,
him.
happy
Yeah.
3-year-old birthday
Yes.
today.
Yes. Good. Well, thank you, Seth. Keep cranking.
Thank you too. We know our little boy is not an enemy of God.
Well, you got
That's
good.
right.
Good for you. Good for you.
You can't love them enough.
Well, my goodness gracious.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's switch gears here. This is something that, we've been talking about all the changes in the Watchtower. We all know that. I'm not going to get into it. You know them all. I don't have to tell you. But there's one change that we have talked about, and I think it deserves some thought here tonight because I got thinking about it. And the Great Tribulation, they changed that. At one time when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and most of you folks listening in here were, they said if you didn't become a baptized Jehovah's Witness before the Great Tribulation, the doors would be closed. And they likened it to Noah's Ark. They said that, when those doors closed, that was it. So we all felt like we had to get baptized. We had to get and become one of Jehovah's Witnesses pretty quick because those doors would close. So there was a sense of urgency that we do that. Now, in the last 2 years, and we've mentioned it here in the Six Screens numerous times, the organization has kind of moved the goalpost a little bit on the tribulation. Now what the Watchtower is saying is that even during the Great Tribulation, you could become back to Jehovah if you left. Now, suppose you're a person that left and you just didn't agree with the Watchtower, but now all of a sudden you see the world events and you're saying, wow, something's going on. I better get back in. And you'd actually even be able to come back in during the Great Tribulation. So that's the change with the Watchtower. So I'm thinking, with the Watchtower, I'm just thinking out loud. Don't take it to the bank and cash it. But I'm just thinking out loud, they're not going to name dates anymore. This 1914, 1925, 1944, 1975. They're not going to get into that.
They might.
Well, they could, Susan, but
Well, this is.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, no, I found this on Reddit.
Yeah.
They're thinking, because nobody knows what to think, right? They have to be told what to think. But they're saying that 1975, and then you said that there's 120 years that you can live afterwards. So that's what I think it's 1980 or what is it? 1930. So it's 1930, 1935, 1938. I've heard all those three being bounced around. I'm right. 35. Yeah. 2035.
Yeah, no, I've heard that too. But I got thinking about their stance or position that they're taking with the Great Tribulation. They're playing with this. And then why would they even? Well, it's new light. It's new light on the tribulation. Okay, so let's just stop there for a second and get our thoughts here together. I want you to give some thought about this. Is it possible, were they really not coming out and naming any date? They played that game before and they failed. Really. I mean, time is the biggest enemy of a false prophet. We all know that. All right, so switching back to the tribulation, is it possible, I'm just thinking out loud, that they can say that the Great Tribulation has begun? Now, that can scare the living daylights out of people. There's plenty of people that are on the fence, plenty of people that have kind of left. If the Watchtower came out and said, oh, my goodness, the Great Tribulation has begun, they would get a lot of people migrating back into the Jehovah's Witness religion. Now, I'm not sure this is what's going on, but there's a few little telltale signs that got me thinking of this. First of
bamboozling with man to man.
Well, what they're saying, I mean, just based on the fact here that they're now saying that people still can be saved during the Great Tribulation. That's what got me thinking.
That's big.
Yeah, so that's big. I mean, why were they?
They had that drawing of that thief where the pretty witness girl was pulling the thief into the Kingdom Hall, and it was in the middle of the fireballs. You may or may not remember that illustration.
No.
I don't know, but I'm sure it was there. It's a scary.
It went with a lecture about how, well, you can come into the fold at the last minute. Now, where this lecture was very popular, somewhere between C.T. Russell's day and Rutherford's day, they were also using a lecture like that. And another group that used it was the Moody Bible College, because D.L. Moody was a brilliant man, and he was friends with Howard Thurston, the great stage magician, who almost went into preaching, but decided to go on stage instead. So this idea of the ark's door being closed is an old way to get people into a revival meeting.
Well, it works, right? I mean,
It works like a charm.
Well,
it works like a charm. And then when they say, well, you could come in at the last minute, you know, that's another technique to keep people, you know, hopeful and to think, well, maybe your relatives will come in at the last minute. These are not new techniques.
They're all fear-based.
Yes. Now, what they do, and you guys hear me all the time. What the Watchtower does, and cults do it, mind control people do it. They tell you before they tell you, then they tell you while they're telling you, and then they tell you what they told you. If you can follow that. So now they kind of told us before they told us that people will still be able to be saved during the Great Tribulation. Okay. Now let's bring it up another notch. They're also saying now, the Watchtower that is, that people, the preaching work will continue during the Great Tribulation. Well, we never heard that before. And then also they're making another proclamation here. So I'm starting to I'm picking crumbs up on the trail is what I'm doing. I'm trying to examine them and see what's going on. So it says the proclamation of peace and security may occur after the destruction of false religion. Well, that used to be before the destruction of false religion. Now it may occur after. So now the other point I wanted to make is that during the Great Tribulation, there will be major organizational changes that we may not understand. Here we go again. Changes we will not understand. And our lives may become more difficult, but we are expected to obey regardless. Stop there. So there's 4 points there that's got me thinking. I don't know for sure, but it would be a great trick without really naming a year. If the Watchtower came out and said, "Friends, the Great Tribulation has begun." Oh my goodness. People will run back to the organization and the preaching work will continue during the Great Tribulation. All right. So then they'll keep preaching during this tribulation. And now, well, we're going to hear a proclamation after the destruction of false religion. So, you know, these are things that are all been flipped around. So I just wanted to throw that out just as a thought. It might not be the case, but I do know one thing. The Watchtower's got to do something. They better come up with a master plan. They better come up with a Big Mac to keep people coming back to buy their spiritual food. I'll tell you. What do you guys think?
Rick.
Yeah.
Rick.
Yeah.
You're right. Rick.
I don't even want a spiritual Slurpee from them anymore.
Yes.
Rick, you're exactly right. It's going to be Jonestown 2.0. I'm telling you. Rick.
Yeah.
Hello, Rick.
Yes.
Okay. I'm at this point. I don't know if I've forgotten doctrine or if the doctrine has changed so much from what I do remember. But okay, this Great Tribulation start, you did touch on it. You said the destruction of false religion. That's supposed to be the scarlet-colored wild beast turning on the harlot, right?
Yes.
And that used to be the start of the Great Tribulation. And then using, I think, some a prophecy in Ezekiel, as they keep ripping apart religion, the only organized religion left on earth will be that of Christ's brothers, you know, the witnesses, the anointed, and their associates. And I think the prophecy they use says they're dwelling in the center of the earth, and they see them as the only organized religion, and that's when they turn on the witnesses and start trying to rip them apart, and that's what brings Armageddon. That's the witness teaching. So in the past, they've had very specific events that are supposed to happen, even if they don't mention a date. So you've got to see these things happen before you can proclaim the Great Tribulation, or they have to change the doctrine.
Well, they don't have problems.
They have to say it's something different now.
Well,
but I also
go ahead, Bixby.
Also, all those neat things that used to be in place, where they could set a date or think they had a date, there's nothing else for them to use to set brand new dates. Susan, the thing that Susan said about 120 years, I think I was trying to find that. I think it was something that was said in Noah's day, something about 120 years.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I had it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I didn't hear what you said it was. You know what I mean? That's fine.
But there was 120 years between two dates. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably that's the only thing they have left to use, is to play with that 120-year statement in the Bible.
Yeah. Zach, you and I've talked about this before, and the only problem I have with it was one of the reasons for my stepping away was when I found out that the Watchtower was indeed in bed with the UN, and so we have this Susan Sarandon lookalike riding on the beast, and her high heel is like knocking Sanderson in the head. You know, so this was a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the UN thing was the biggest problem for me too.
I think Susan Sarandon would be offended.
Well, anyways,
if you look in that Revelation climax book, the beast, the lady riding the beast, does kind of look like her.
No, yes, I understand. I agree.
Well, very good. Well, what I want to do now is the Watchtower's falling apart, and even Susan came across something that got my attention as well. You know, the song "The Cart." The song "The Cart." Susan, tell us about the song.
Well, I don't, as Rick says, don't take it to the bank and cash it. But they're saying that they don't play that song anymore. Have you heard that song recently? Are they pushing that song? Okay.
I'm just a cart made up of bits and pieces, a frame, a handle, and some wheels. But I'm a cart that helps to give a witness. What is that like? Let me tell you how it feels. If you could see what I see, if you could visit all the places that I go, if you could see the people there and get a glimpse of all the faces that I get to know, if you could hear what I hear when they see things they've never had a chance to see, that's when you'll see how it can be that forever they'll remember me. I've got wheels, I've got racks, I've got books, and I've got tracks. I take the kingdom message everywhere. When the crowds pass me by, I'm designed to catch their eye. Wherever people gather, count on me, 'cause I'll be there. If you could do what I do, you'd know the happiness that always fills my heart. What a feeling to go wheeling. I'm so glad to be a public witness card.
Well, there you go. Actually, now,
Sounds like Disney.
yeah. So anyways, what
You know
we
what happens sometimes when you see something change like that? Sometimes the person has been disfellowshipped, or sometimes they're no longer a witness for whatever reason.
well
Zachary, that's what I was going to mention. Is that they feel? No, you said it. I didn't, but I was going to say just what you said. That the brother that sang that song is no longer at Bethel, and they don't play that song anymore because they have felt that his reason for leaving was he might have been homosexual. So that's the Watchtower feeling.
He might have had talent to sing like Matthew Broderick in The Music Man, and so maybe he decided to audition for something real.
To have a career rather than singing my cart.
You know what that Susan whispered to me when that song was playing, and I'll tell you what, Zachary could sing that song. He could really sing that song really
Probably
good.
better.
Yeah, very good.
You know what though? If you look at the other videos too, like the one where the sister lost her sister and then she comes back in the resurrection. Did anyone notice the wooden handle on the door, like in Paradise? Like
I'm not sure I don't know what that is.
So when they did the resurrection video, the sister is like her sister died, and she's looking at these pictures or whatever. And anyway, they fast forward to when she comes back in Paradise, and then the sister opens the door, and they make it a big point. And when she opens the door, it's a wood like handle. It's I'm sorry, it just stuck out in my brain. Like
that's interesting because wouldn't there be brass foundries or salvage yards? All those houses that were destroyed at Armageddon, those doorknobs would still be in salvage yards because they wouldn't melt.
Exactly. But if you look at the video, because they do it at the convention this year too, apparently, they play the same video, and I was just like, it's a fucking wooden doorknob. That is really weird. Like, are we in the, okay, we're going to Paradise, but we're also going to be back in the 1700s? Like, what is this? Like, really?
We're back to
Maybe
we're
I'm
like
sorry.
Amish
It's in
people.
my brain.
Well, we'd go back to
And
being
a lot of
Amish
people who are very, very proficient in building and construction, most of them might have been, destroyed. I don't mean to, sorry.
Yeah,
Humans could cast metal for 1,000 years. I could cast a doorknob with a fireplace.
I know. I just thought it was something that struck my mind, and I was just like, she's turning a wooden knob, and I was thinking, man, I don't know. It just caught my attention.
I think she's
and that's
Snow
all
White.
the things that caught my attention. So, anyway,
Yeah.
just thought I'd share that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we got thinking here and going over the news and looking at certain things. And another subject I wanted to bring up tonight is the fact that, well, Susan can talk a little bit about it too. But the Watchtower, and Zach, of course, will agree with me on this because he was there at Bethel. And back in the 80s and 90s and even the 60s and 70s, the Watchtower would often brag. I mean, can you imagine a Watchtower bragging? But they would often brag that they were the largest printing company in the world for religious publications. So, I mean, that's a fact. And they did. I mean, at one time, I would put them right up there. And I think they had bragging rights. Now, I do remember that, the Catholic Church, they came in a close second along with Reader's Digest. But Watchtower really was a major printer of magazines and books. So I will give them the credit for that. But there's more to the story. There's more to the story. And Susan, why don't you tell us what the story is?
Well, they don't print very many I'm sorry. Okay. Well, they don't print very many magazines anymore. I mean, they used to do, it was 4 magazines a month plus literature, plus the Kingdom Ministries and all the other and elders' letters and all whatever. So, but that's not even, they don't even do close to that now. There's 2 magazines a year, maybe.
Study edition, yeah.
Well, they have the study editions, which is true, but
that study edition, they print 12 of those. But the public edition is they're not even printing it anymore. They're basically using older editions of the Watchtower.
right. So they're how much? 1/10 or less of what they used to do?
They're not what they used to do. But Susan, well, what you were bringing up today, and you saw this news article, is the fact that they claim they were the largest printer, but how many of these magazines were really being read?
Oh yes, we were talking about
How many
that.
of these magazines are really being read? How many magazines did you get that just accumulated in your closet, maybe the trunk in your car? Everybody had tons of magazines.
You have to tell that story about your daughter's
Yeah, I'll
car.
tell about that. Now, you probably knew pioneers. You probably pioneered yourself. Everybody had excess magazines. So even though they claim that they were the world's largest printer of religious magazines or any magazine, but at the same time, people aren't reading it. Now, not even the witnesses were reading it. And I mean, I had stacks of them. It bothered my conscience at one time. I'm saying the poor brothers at Bethel, they're working overtime to print this stuff, and nobody's even taking it. There's too many magazines left over at the end of the month. And I'll give you a story. My daughter,
The pioneer.
pioneer daughter, a real loyal witness, pioneer girl, 18, 19 years old. And she lived with me at the time. She wasn't married. And she had a little Volkswagen Golf. And, nice little car. And she'd go out and service and that. And she would do the pioneering. And so anyways, she was living with me. And then she got married. And what happened is she left the car. The husband had a car. So she kind of left her car in my driveway. And winter's coming and I have to plow. And it was in the way. So I was trying to be as kind as I could to her. So I said, daughter, I won't give her name. I said, daughter, could you please come and get your car? And she didn't do it. And I said, look, I gotta get the car out of here. I gotta move it somewhere. I gotta get out of the driveway, bring it to a friend's house, but it's causing some problems here. So she just didn't come and get it. So I went out there. I had the keys, opened up the trunk. It was filled. I mean, Watchtowers, Awake magazines, publications, all in the trunk. I'm saying, my goodness gracious, this is just one pioneer, and the trunk is filled with literature. Then there was stuff in the back seat. And I'm thinking, this is going on all around the world. So, yeah, they're the largest printer, but how many people are really reading the magazines?
Or even placing
them. So, this was a waste of the Bethelites' time. This is a waste of money, really, when you think about it. But it did give the Watchtower the printing bragging rights that they were such a huge printing facility. What do you
And think about all the magazines that were left at laundromats and car washes or doctors' offices, wherever they could leave them. And I'm sure they picked them up and threw them right in garbage.
And Susan, another thing too, you got me thinking. Another thing too is when you would go to a door, you knock on the door, you tell them you're a witness, you got the latest magazines, and they give you a buck for them. You give them the magazines. What do you think those people do? You think they run to their lazy boy and sit down and read the articles? No way. They walk by the trash barrel and throw them in there. These magazines, they never really read. For the most part, they're not. Now, I'm not going to say that nobody read them, but it's kind of like
I didn't read all of them.
I would say, I'm going to go on the record here. I can't say for sure because who knows, but I would be willing to say that maybe 1/4 of those magazines were read. Maybe the people going to the meetings on Sunday for the Watchtower lesson, but other than that, it was just.
True believer. I read every word in every magazine I ever got, and I wanted it all to be true.
You read them, yes, you did, Pixie. But did you ever have an excess amount of them?
No, because my dad and I figured this out, that people were buying magazines they didn't place. And so my dad said, only put in the order for the number of magazines that you think you're going to place. Because years ago, he had Constellation magazines and he had them in the attic. And so he said, I learned as a young man not to put in an order for more than I think I can place. If I can place 5 magazines, I put in an order for 5. But I don't put in an order for 25 because I know I'll never place that many. So I learned as a young person to only put in the print order at the magazine counter of what I really genuinely thought I could place, which was about 5 magazines.
Well, your father was a conservative man and he appreciated the fact that, this was money. But most people didn't feel like your dad did, Pixie. They would just, give me
No, because they hadn't worked in printing, they hadn't worked in advertising, they didn't understand about paper costs and all. And so these pioneers do what your daughter did, and they think, oh, well, I'm going to place 25 of next month's special magazine. And so they had more magazines than they could ever place.
Hundreds of
But
them.
the Watchtower made money on the pioneers. It was really kind of a crime because these people had limited income and limited budget, and they're given for these big print orders.
And think too, Pixie, if we had that many left over, I mean, your family was different, I will say that. But if we had boxes of magazines left over, what do you think the Watchtower had? I'm sure if they had a special magazine, they printed a lot extra. I didn't hear what she said.
Racket that is, the whole world of all the members are supporting New York Watchtower by buying up magazines, and Watchtower didn't care if they were placed or not.
No, they didn't.
Just made their money from the members themselves buying the magazines that they were going to place in service and maybe get a donation back from.
Well, no, you're right. That's a good point too, Pixie.
It's double dipping.
But Susan today said to me, "Well, Rick, how many magazines would you say were left in your daughter's car?" So I'm gonna. I mean, I didn't count them, but I'm gonna say, just judging by stacks, I would say 300 to 400. Yeah, I mean, really.
Wow.
So if you take, I mean, I'm just thinking at the time, in the 90s, they're claiming now there's 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses. So let's just cut it down. I forget what it was back then, but I think they had about 7 million at the time. So let's just run some numbers here so we can get an idea. So here's one pioneer in Massachusetts with, let's just say 200. Let's just say it was over projecting here. Let's go with 200 magazines and let's multiply that by 5 million witnesses. Now, we really can't do that because some people didn't even go out in service, but let's just say 1 million witnesses. Let's just say 1 million witnesses. I mean, we're being conservative here. So we get 1 million witnesses and let's say 200 magazines. That's 200 million. 200 million magazines that are just sitting around somewhere in someone's car or maybe in Kingdom Hall closet or something. So, yeah, I'll give the Watchtower credit. They were a large printing company, but a printing company that yeah. What do you think?
So, Rick, I'm going to give you some new light. Do I have your permission to give some new light on the
We need new light because the
JW
old
World
light
News?
failed. Yeah.
We'll take anything we can get.
Well, you'll get a witness. Well, a new light is this: that they overprinted the magazine so that during the Great Tribulation, when there's no fuel, they could light their fires and keep warm and cook with the old surplus bound volumes of Watchtowers.
Well, either that, Zach, or they kind of could prophesy that COVID was coming, and people they knew toilet paper was going to run out, so maybe they.
That was Maverick.
That was Maverick.
Yeah.
It was Maverick.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing about them using the magazines as toilet paper.
But I have to confess, that I did have extra magazines too.
You did.
Yeah, but it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many. Sometimes I did place them all, but a new one came out just about every week. And so just having a standing order of 5, you might be out there and offering them. This is why people started saying, would you read them if I gave them to you? There were some people who would give them to people. And the circuit overseer one time said, we should not be just giving them away. So that, people stopped doing that. So their placements went down. I will say that the watchtowers often were used. People brought in their leftover watchtowers. And as the Watchtower study was beginning, they would raise their hand to hand their watchtowers in so that they could be distributed to people who did not have watchtowers on Sunday, at the start of the Watchtower study.
Right. Yeah. In fact,
but I agree. There were many. I was on the New York delivery table one time, and New York has all these English. They had like 400 congregations, it seemed like. And there were all these English congregations and mostly, and then there were Spanish congregations, a lot of Spanish congregations, and then a lot of foreign language congregations. And when I got to the end of one of the runs, of filling the orders, putting them in the boxes for the congregations in New York, when I got to the end, for some reason, I was short on French magazines. I had an excess of Italian magazines. So I suspected I sent Italian magazines to a French congregation.
Well, how'd you land up with Italian and French magazines? Could you speak the language?
Well,
no.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't explain myself. I did speak French. I did have French magazines too in my distribution, but I mean, in my work at Bethel, I was on the New York delivery table where I filled the orders for New York City congregation magazines. And they have a lot of English congregations, about 400 congregations, I think it was.
Wow.
At that time. A lot of English congregations, a lot of Spanish congregations, and other foreign language congregations that needed magazines. And at the end of one of the issues that I was filling, I ended up with too many Italian magazines and not enough French magazines. By the same amount, we suspected that I had messed up and given French magazines to an Italian congregation. So I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop for some congregation to come complaining, we got the wrong language, but it never happened.
Well, Zachary, did you ever see the Watchtower in Pidgin English?
I did see something in Pidgin.
I have one.
Yeah. Well,
I have one in Pidgin English.
It's very interesting. Yes.
It is. It is.
Yes.
And it doesn't have Jehovah's name. It says big God.
The big, and some of them say big fella for God.
Big fella.
Big fella.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yes it does.
I'm gonna butt in here again and talk to the sisters for a minute. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I have a message for the sisters because I know what they're okay. You know, we don't get to give talks, we don't get to run microphones, we don't get to run anything else. But in the theocratic school, or again, it's been a long time. I don't know if they still do it, but you get to give skits. That is our jam. We get to give a Bible study skit for 5 minutes on the clock. And for me, it's just, you know, you get this, and that is your privilege to do until you get in trouble and they take that away from you, right? And so what happened to me was, I don't know how any other sisters feel. Like, did they even like doing that? Did they think it was awesome? Did they, you know, I don't know. I didn't think it was awesome. I thought it was kind of my duty.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
I didn't like it. I had stage fright, you know, when it came to the talks and everything. I could speak to someone door to door who I feel comfortable with and everything, but to be, you know, around all those people and some of the congregations I was in, that didn't like me, my family. I was like, each time I got to talk or something, I was like, oh, heck.
Yeah.
If I could get out of it, I could get out of it.
Exactly. So for me, when I used to go in front of the Kingdom Hall, I got really creative with my skits because I was like, I don't want to, like, I'm a role player. I'm a nerd. It makes sense why, anyway. So when I used to do skits, I used to make them really entertaining, and everyone would come up like, yay, that was so nice. Yay. It's like, oh, that was so funny, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I got into trouble, got publicly reproved, lost my privileges, and then then they went back to, you know, the regular sisters had to do their theocratic ministry school and blah blah blah.
Two sisters,
you know, people
talking.
call out and
right, two sisters talking.
Huh?
Oh, they would make you do two sisters talking, right?
Right. The skit. Yeah, you would have to go up in front of the Kingdom Hall and sit at a table and do like this big Bible study.
Right.
I loved it. I love anything with the stage, and I love any time I have to write a script.
I have a question for you sisters who said you didn't like it. Would you have preferred to stand up and speak directly to the congregation?
No,
not really. I didn't.
Okay.
I was
I understand.
I was just a bunch of nerves. I mean, I completed my assignment. In most cases, I'm not trying to brag, but I did get, G's.
Good grades.
But I just, because at the rating system, G for good, W for work on, I for improved, W to work on. But I don't know, maybe because I was in the waking up process little bit by little bit as time went on in my journey, but I just wasn't having it. But the funny thing about it was that when I went to college to get my not only associates, but also my bachelor's, I had the electives for, and I'm not going to talk too long, Jack, because I don't want you to lose your train of thought. I, had those electives for to get, to obtain my degree, and I had two public speaking courses. I did well with them. Maybe I don't know. It's just that when it came to dealing with people who were not witnesses, I felt the comfortability except for those who really came at me and said, "Oh, you're J Dub. We hate you," you know, and things like that.
So
I stayed away from those people.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You were used to it, and witnesses would excel in public speaking in college. Yes, they would. But we had a sister one time who gave the talk by herself. And the way she did it was, I don't know if she had to, if she was substituting for somebody or what happened. Or, you know, she got the assignment late and found out
she had to do that?
No, what she did, she gave it by herself, no other sister on the platform, but she took a phone on the platform and pretended like she was speaking to someone on the phone.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you a story.
How do I improve
Well,
on being Jezebel?
Well, that's something because I didn't think of it that way, but I like talking to the non-witnesses more so at one time.
Her first name was Judy.
That's all I wanted to say.
Well, the thing is, when you give talks like that too in the theocratic ministry school, it's voluntary, you know. And then if you become someone that has lost their privileges, you can't give talks in the theocratic ministry. And then the brother who's running that, if someone is absent or doesn't want to do it, they're like, "Oh, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "No, I've lost my privileges. You should know that." So I mean, it's just gross. The whole thing is gross. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can't give skits. I can't be theatric today because you took it away from me. So sorry, not today.
Well, okay, I got a story to tell you about. Got a story to tell you about sisters giving talks. Now, I grew up. I didn't have any brothers. I had 3 sisters, and we were all Jehovah's Witnesses. My mother would take us to the meeting. My father never was a witness, but anyways, we'd go to the meetings with my mother. Now, you know, back in the 1980s, the brothers really were scrutinizing the length of a sister's skirt. And, they didn't want a sister wearing a mini skirt. I get that. And, they wanted like it to be below the knee, right? So my 2 sisters, they were giving a talk one night. They were assigned to talk. So, they could use each other as the householder. So anyways, what happened is they went to the meeting and they were sitting there ready to get up and give the talk. And the brother on the stage, who was a ministry school conductor, he said, okay, Sister Farron, both Sister Farrons will come up. Well, they're not going to come up on the stage tonight. They won't come on the stage. They're going to give the talk from the seat in the Kingdom Hall. Now, that was unusual. My mother, she was going ballistic. So she's wondering, why can't my daughters go up on the stage? So, I mean, she was fit to be tied. I can still remember that. So after the meeting, she went up and said, why couldn't my daughters go on the stage? And there was a real conservative ministry school teacher. And he said, well, your daughter's skirts were too short. And they weren't. My daughters, my sisters did not wear mini skirts. But I mean, this is how, controlling they are. So how intimidating is that? You're going to get, I mean, imagine that. You're all set now. Now, Hillary, she didn't like giving a talk on the stage. But what if they said she had to give the talk in her seat? I mean, imagine all the attention that would draw to you. But these guys had no feeling for anybody. They would make people feel 2 feet high at times, And
you know how difficult that is because it's a change. You expect to be able to set your notes down on a table. When you're preparing mentally, that's how you expect it to be able to be. And if they're giving it in their seats, that's uncomfortable for giving a talk. I mean, you're not so much in front of the audience, but it's uncomfortable because you got to hold your notes, and how do you work out the microphone and that kind of stuff, you know? It's a different situation.
You're
than what
also,
you
you're
mentally
also
hear.
wondering, Zach, you'd also be wondering, I mean, just imagine now, you're sitting, let's say Zachary's sitting at Kingdom Hall. Okay, now Zachary has talk number 5 tonight, but Zachary, we want you to do the talk from your seat. Now, I mean, well, what's running through your head, right? Why can't I go up there? I mean, how can you even give the talk in a sensible manner, thinking about why can't I go up there? What did I do, right? Geez, they always gonna make you feel like, man, I must have done something really wrong here.
What's
You know?
crazy about the skirt length? That skirt length thing was crazy because before we had the elder arrangement, in the days of Jacqueline Kennedy or Pat Nixon, a lady's dress was to the mid-knee, even if she was a very wealthy, prominent lady. So we had this Chanel length mid-knee dress, and it wasn't a mini skirt. It didn't come up to the thighs like some of the dresses I wore to school. The Kingdom Hall dresses were mid-knee. Then after the elder arrangement came in, they told us that a proper Chanel length skirt was too short. And then I got vintage 50s dresses that had a fitted waist and a big skirt. And then they told me my skirt was too long.
You know, and all witness, everybody knows this. I'm not tapping on the computer checking AI or anything like that. The designer of the miniskirt, I think Mary Quant,
Yes.
they put it in the Awake magazine that she said something about she didn't think a person should have to wait until nighttime to go to bed with someone. They put that in the Awake, from what I remember, to turn you against the miniskirt, make it look more evil.
That's so gross. That is just so gross. Like, as a kid, I was a kid in the Pacific Northwest, so our district conventions were at the Tacoma Dome, which is big controversy with the parking and all that kind of thing. But you go in and you have to hook your ass up these bleachers, and I'm sorry, you're in a skirt, like, or whatever. It is. I'm sorry, it is not female friendly, and it is gross, and it was very not nice.
Well, Zach,
Hey,
you brought something up, Zach, that got me thinking about the lady there that invented the miniskirt. They will take articles in the Watchtower and really, give it a bad, connotation, even worse than it should be. And I read an article, in fact, just recently in one of the Watchtowers about AI, and they did a similar thing in that. And they were saying that AI, they didn't use the word dangerous, but they said it could be very challenging. It could be very misinformative. And then they used the term that AI. They wanted, they asked the question, what would Jehovah think about AI? And they more or less said that he wouldn't approve of it. I mean, how could they even possibly say something like that? But you can see the picture that they were trying to paint, So, witnesses reading this and, oh, Jehovah doesn't like AI. I better not do it. See what I mean? Yeah.
Does he approve of nylon, which is synthetic material?
Well,
it depends what country.
Yeah, well, that was very unfair. The witnesses. That was Jesse. See,
Hey, Rick.
yeah, go ahead,
Hey,
Jesse.
Rick.
Yeah.
I just had one experience with the short dress. Well, a lot of experiences, but one experience with the short dress. I conducted the school in Spanish for 11 years in my town in Yuma. And 11 years I conducted it. And I tried to do my best. Some nights I would have 4 schools. I would learning to read and write Spanish and the 3 schools. So once a month I would have four classes, 4 schools. Do you remember the old books, Learning to Read and Write?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, I used to run that once a month in Spanish. So I really believed in. Me and Gilbert worked our asses off. I mean, we were real believers in giving and loving our brothers and everything. But one time there was this beautiful sister, young sister, and she was new in the school. Went up there. The only time I got in trouble because she was wearing. I thought a beautiful. She looked like what was that girl in Moon River? What was that girl? Audrey Hepburn. She looked like Audrey Hepburn. I mean, just a beautiful, flat-out Mexican beauty. Just a beautiful. So she's up there and she's doing. I think it was on Joshua, and I was really into the Bible and her talk with her housemate. And after the meeting, the elders called a special meeting. They brought me in and they wanted to know why I didn't take her off the stage because her dress was too low, and I was in shock. I would rather die than to tell a sister anything about her wear. I would rather die, especially a young Mexican girl, because her dad could beat you up or kill you. You know, you just don't do that in the Mexican culture. A man does not do that. Well, anyway, so I was talking to the elders, and they were telling me, Jesse, you did this and you didn't do that. You didn't take her down. And I go, for the life of me, I didn't notice her dress. I didn't, believe me, brothers, forgive me. For the life of me, I didn't notice her dress. And then I said, I don't even know what color dress your wife has. I don't know what color dress your wife has. And the two elders that brought me into the back room, they started telling me the dress of every sister in that hall. That's when I found out they were obsessed sexually with all the women. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you the color dress their sisters were wearing. And I told them, and I mentioned to them, what color dress was my wife wearing? And they told me everything my wife was wearing, everything my daughters were wearing, everything every sister was wearing. These men are obsessed about clothes.
They did, and they did this to prove to you that you should have noticed this sister.
Yeah, I did notice because I was listening to her Bible account. I really was. I know I'm a sinner just like everybody else. I like to look at women's legs and boobs and everything. But when I was a school conductor, I really was listening to their scriptural talk. I was not checking them out sexually. These guys were.
Oh, that's unreal, yeah. Jesse. That's quite the story. But you got me thinking. That's a perverted person. That's perversion.
Yeah.
Jeez,
yeah. Well, that's my story on the short dress. Next time, the moral of the story, next time, forget the Bible and check out the woman's dress. All right, talk to you guys later.
All right. Did Junction Guy want to come on and say something? Come on, Junction Guy.
Hey, Rick and Susan, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I just got back from Florida early this morning. I thought I'd tune in and listen tonight. I'm glad you brought up that point about the change in the doctrine about the Great Tribulation. A lot of these young people that might be questioning it, a lot of them are, they might be questioning whether it's true religion or not. They're just waiting it out to see, and, maybe they want to do what they want until the Great Tribulation begins, and now they have the chance where they can wait till the last minute and get baptized.
That could be.
Well, that's a good point you're making there, Junction Guy. That's maybe the Watchtower is even, extending that and hoping some of those guys will come back.
I've had a change of heart. I think I'm going to wear punk boots, purple fishnets, and a mini skirt all the way through the Great Tribulation.
Well, they might not let you in wearing that, Pixie.
I think we got to style. I think we really have to be styling. That's the one thing we can take away from our lives when we used to be witnesses. I think style is very important.
What did Junction Guy want to say?
You still with us, Junction Guy?
I'm still with you.
So, did you have a chance to go to the Kingdom Hall down in Florida?
Not this trip, no.
Well, I know you're talking about that last time. So that's good. Well, you must be tired, so you just go back and relax a little bit. I didn't mean to bring you on. but I'm glad you came on.
I want to mention something.
Yeah.
I want to mention something. You were talking about congregations getting deleted. I've mentioned this before, but back in the early 80s, when we would go vacation down to Daytona Beach, my parents would talk about a Kingdom Hall there. Supposedly the whole Kingdom Hall turned apostate and changed the name to Jehovah's Christian Witness or something. And we were always told, you know, they were told to look out for that congregation, don't go there. I don't know if anybody's heard about this or knows anything about it, but it was something back then. It was in Daytona Beach area.
Well, what year was that roughly?
Probably 82, 83.
Well, no, I remember hearing about that. I lived in Florida then, and I remember hearing about that. Yeah, it was. They changed the whole. They changed the name, and they all went apostate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something my parents were telling us about back then.
Yeah, and what they had, the man that was on earlier, I forget who it was that said it, but they have these hatchet men, and that's what they call them. And these were elders. They were really, really Watchtower men that really were totally loyal. And whenever they had a congregation that was going astray like that, they'd send these guys in, and they would clean it up. And as we were talking earlier, there has been entire congregations shut down because of what was going on. But I did hear about that one in Florida too, and everyone turned apostate. Maybe that's going to happen again. I think it could happen again. I'm thinking, you know, you take the average congregation here in America. How many of those people are PMOs? You know, we talk here about maybe half of the Jehovah's Witnesses in the world. They claim they have 9 million. I mean, there could be 4 million PMOs. So if you just run those numbers and bring it down to the local congregation, there could be like half of the people in the congregation are PMOs. And at some point,
Well, you know what, Rick?
yeah,
If you really, the whole organization is apostate because they've changed the Bible, which Jesus tells them not to do. They've taken away from the Bible, which Jesus has told them not to do. So they are totally, the whole organization is apostate.
well, you're right. If you use that rule of thumb, but I mean, it's still if you're going to use that line of logic, then you know there's still going to be Watchtower people. But I mean, half of the witnesses are just going to the meeting in a perfunctory way. They know darn well if they don't keep up with the witness world that their family's going to disconnect and their relatives and friends as well. So they got to keep going and going and going. But eventually, if something hits the fan, eventually, I mean, there could be a stampede, never mind a mass exodus. There could be a stampede out of the witness world. If something, I mean, it's like a flock. I mean, not a flock, but say a herd of cattle. And, you know, they're eating grass and everyone's doing fine. Then all of a sudden, whoa, they start stampeding. Something can cause that. Is the great stampeding on the horizon? And because I'll tell you what, when it does hit, a lot of people are going to leave at the same time. Unreal. Well, maybe we should wrap it up here. There will be a 6-screen Sunday tomorrow. Don't run to the mountains. What we do here on Sunday is we get into the scriptures. We deal with theology, and you know that's part of the Watchtower, right? That's part of many people left because of bad false prophecies, and they wanted to learn the truth, the real truth. So they left the Watchtower. So tomorrow we get into the scriptures, beginning at 1:00. We have a program called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. We have 2 Christian apologists that will discuss many issues that Jehovah's Witnesses are faced with and how they can overcome the false teachings of the Watchtower.
One thing I like about Sunday is there's several programs where you can ask your questions, things that the Watchtower wouldn't address, or you might wonder, is there really a hell? Is there a heaven? Is these NDEs where people see things after they die, is that for real? Are there aliens on other planets, you can ask those questions. You can ask whatever you want. And these brothers or former brothers will answer them. So if you want, you can go onto the site and ask your questions, or you can write them to Rick, or, ask them tomorrow. But plan on that, because everybody loves to hear what the brothers
Well,
say.
that's the thing. In other words,
Demon question would be good. That are the aliens biblical demons? I think that'd be a great Sunday question.
And they are. So you want to get the full
well, maybe we'll bring it up tomorrow, Pixie. But Susan,
One thing I wanted to mention, because 3 years ago I mentioned it, and I don't think that Rick believed it at that time. Years ago, as witnesses, everyone signed their letters agape. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, agape is a brotherly love in the Bible. But the largest, most expensive, most elite pagan lodge of the Ordo Templi Orientis in New York is called the Agape Lodge. And that's kind of spooky and kind of scary, but it's a fact. And there was this brother that in the Paradise book went on and on about those flaming swords in Eden. And I just want to reinforce that when you were talking about occultism within the Watchtower, because that goes back to the 1950s.
well, obviously, Pixie, we don't know where the Watchtower picks up some of the stuff, but it could be from what you were just talking about. All of these occultists, they work together. Well, thank you for that. Yes.
Well, these were people at the top. And so I just want to reinforce that, because I mentioned it years ago and people didn't quite know what to do with it. So maybe you believe me now.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So anyways, you come in tomorrow. We got the 1 o'clock, the Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower program. And then Anne Marie has a program on here. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. And that's a great program where people come in and they tell us what went on with their life in the Watchtower and really what they're doing today. So Anne Marie will be on at 2 o'clock tomorrow. And then we do JW World News Sunday edition. That'll be on at 3 o'clock. And then, of course, at 4 o'clock, we have a program, friends. It's the only program we have on the 6 screens. We got just about 14 of them, 14 programs now on our network. And the Christian Court is going outside the witness world, is connecting with other Christians, come in and listen to this. And what we do is we have 2 Bible scholars that come on, and what they do is they answer peculiar Christian questions. You know, in the world of Christianity, there can be 2 answers, and there really can be. But in the Watchtower, they can't be. There can only be 1 answer, and you better believe what they say, or you are dead,
or you're wrong.
or you're gone. That's it. So that's a Christian court. And then we have a man, and he's getting a lot of, boy, I'll tell you, this program is gaining a lot of momentum. Jay Hess, and he has a program called Making Disciples with Jay Hess. And Jay is a former, he was associated with the writing department of the Watchtower. And Jay has a program that will answer your Bible questions. And you got to have some. And, I'm not going to get preachy here tonight. I'm not going to get into the scriptures with you on Saturday night. But, if you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you must have some scriptures that, you're scratching your head and thinking about them. Come in and listen to Jay. You have a question, call up Jay Hess. So that'll be tomorrow. Anyways, we had fun tonight. We had a lot of callers come in. A lot of people.
Well, I'd like.
What do you want to say,
I'd
Dan?
like to greet. I like to greet Susan right there. So she's with us, you and Susan together.
Yeah.
Hi there.
That's Dallas.
I know.
I was thinking that these district conventions, that like in the old days in Rutherford's day, how many of them you think wanted to be there?
Well, I'll tell you, Dallas.
In the summer.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say it, but I think back then, in the early days, there were a lot of people that really liked going to the conventions, because I'll tell you what, today we have so many things to keep us occupied. You know, we have movie theaters, we have our phones, we have streaming, we have all kinds of entertainment. But back then, I mean, you know, Charles Taze Russell going around in his train and showing up with the talks he had, and Rutherford the same. They got way more attention. Today, that attention is not there.
They got full meals.
Yep.
Back in the old days, they camp out and they have a little campground, and then the convention provided full meals for the campers. My parents loved it. Those were the good old days.
Well, it would have been
No air conditioning. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, but people didn't know anything.
I'm sorry if I hope I ain't interrupting. I'm sure some of them would have rather spent that summer stay at Rutherford Salts. They would have rather gone to Atlantic City or something.
Well, I'll tell you, Dallas. Well, you're a hot dog, Dallas, but you're a good girl. We love you. We love you.
I think you would have rather gone to Atlantic City yourself.
Well, I'd rather go. I'd rather.
You are one of the best people I have ever met in my life. You are a gem, honey.
Yeah.
I just
Well, thank you.
To death.
Well, one thing you're going to get from Dallas, he's not, you know, he's not, he's his own man. He tells it like it is.
Yes.
He tells it like it is. We love Dallas.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, he is.
Well,
you say
good
hi to
grazie.
everybody. You are a kind heart. You have a pure kind heart. You are absolutely amazing.
That's right.
I'll do the best I can.
Well, thank you, Dallas, and thank you for being part of the Six Screens community, too. Thank you. Well, anyways, that's about it. But I want to say this. I want you guys to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. Don't ever let your visions die either. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Now, we do have a program coming up next. It's not on YouTube. It's not on Facebook. If you're on our telephone line and you see it scrolling across the bottom on YouTube and Facebook, call that number if you want to join the fun. It's called the After Party. And they'll be in there talking. You can let your hair down. You don't have to talk about the Watchtower. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But keep it clean. Keep it civil. And remember, now you're on a telephone. So kind of respect everybody. You know, use the mute button to unmute yourself and then hit *6 once again to mute yourself when you're not talking. Well, thank you, everyone. Good night, and we'll see you tomorrow
Good night.
on
See you
Six
tomorrow.
Screen Sunday. Good night, everyone.